Hey, it is the Nextlander podcast for September 24th, 2025. I am Brad Shoemaker, joined by Alex Navarro. Vinny Caravella is off enjoying that sweet second week of vacation. Alex is shaking his head.
He's in the wind, man.
That's right.
Who knows where he's at? Who knows what kind of cabinets he's staining right now? Who can say?
Probably in a basement or a garage, or maybe both at the same time somehow. Not sure, but in his stead, none other than Austin Walker, our friend and colleague.
Hello, I'm here. I'm here to talk about video games. That's what we do, right? That's what's happening right now with video
Sometimes
games?
we do.
I don't know. I don't even know what role to introduce you by at this point. You wear many hats.
Podcaster emeritus. I
Sure.
don't even know anymore these days.
Video
it's a hard
gamesman
one.
at large.
At large, yeah. I think I'm
There you
Austin
go.
Walker at large. I think that's right.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being. I don't know if I've been on a podcast with you in a while.
I must have guessed it on a Nextlander in the last year.
Sometime in the last year, I feel like, but who
but
knows?
not often enough.
Yeah.
How are you keeping?
Man, I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Keeping busy?
I'm keeping busy. This is the first full year where I've not had a full-time job. I had a little window there after leaving Waypoint, like trying to do some freelance stuff before going full-time game dev. And now it has been since last April that I got that layoff.
God,
so this is the first year. Yeah, and I've done other game dev stuff in the middle there, like freelance stuff that I haven't ever talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first full year that I'm like, I am just going to try to do my own shit. You know? Oh, you know what we did? I know the last time we were on a podcast.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
We did Realis. I ran
Yeah, of
Realis
course.
for y'all.
That was
Yes,
it.
right.
We're not just chopping it up. We're like playing a thing. So that's like mostly what I'm doing right now is working on the final version of
Right.
Realis.
That's one of the 18 hats.
That's one of the
Mhm.
18 hats. I do a video game podcast every other week now called Side Story. I haven't given up the world of weighing in on video games. I just talked about Demon Ex Machina because someone has to.
Mhm, sure.
And then Friends at the Table, A More Civilized Age. We're playing through KOTOR 2, more video game stuff. I like that game a lot still. That game is still, it's a mess, but it's a mess that does some things that no other game does. And so that's kind of the big stuff these days.
Excellent.
You know?
Excellent.
And how is the Realis stuff coming along? Like you said, you're working on the final version now. Like
It's coming, man. I just put together a spreadsheet last night about. I've had a spreadsheet that's like, here's all the writing that needs to get done, and the one I put together last night was, here are all of the other like NPC kind of like monster stat blocks, except that it's Realis, so it's sentences for the NPCs I still have to write, and it's a lot of them. But I have them all now in front of me, and so that's one of the big final tasks. We've been working with a lot of artists. We have tons of original art coming in. Each class has its own like full page art piece, and that's like 55 classes. So that's huge. And then on top of that, not all the factions, but all the biggest factions, all of the moons that are shipping with the game, it's like 20 moons, something like that. So a ton of art. It's going to be 100 pieces of art or something ridiculous by the end of it all. And so like sending out art briefs and working with the publisher to figure out design things and talking about what we're going to bind the book in, like human flesh or a different type of flesh, or, all sorts of stuff.
what's the import tax on human flesh right now?
You can get it in under a food tax, which has its own problems because you have to go with the FDA.
Yeah.
But once you register yourself as a registered cannibal, which I believe we're doing now, I hear it's good for your immune system.
But you do have to register.
That's right.
You can't just do that on your own. You need the government to bless that.
Yeah. I believe we're going forward, we're going to have to register ourselves for everything we do and everything we don't do. And they'll decide later which of it is legal and illegal on a sort of arbitrary case-by-case basis.
Fantastic.
That's my understanding of how things are going.
I didn't expect there to be any like genuinely new, fresh material on the current situation on this show. I'll leave it to you to show up with some.
I didn't think Tylenol was going to be a punchline this week over and over again. And I read a really good thread on why he did that, by the way, in terms of threading the needle, which we don't have to go down this.
Exactly
but
the
you
argument.
Probably saw the thread, the argument, which is
a lot of different plates spinning that all have to be spun simultaneously.
Yeah, you have to make a lot of different people happy when you're trying to destroy our medical system and hurt people, it turns out.
So does that mean we can finally stop saying acetaminophen and start saying paracetamol?
I think so. I think that's the world we're moving towards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Good stuff.
It took this.
If I could just briefly go back to Realis for a second. So wait, it's shipping with 20. Does that mean there's like 980 moons that have yet to be created, or is it more like there's a bunch in a queue somewhere waiting to come along?
There will. I'm never is a strong word. All right, so the book as written is like, listen, your moons and our moons are not going to be the same. I don't know when you're reading this book, because again, the book is written in character from a person in the world. Which is important to me because I also have Realis in development right now. That is from a different. It's the same setting but a different perspective. Who thinks all this sentence shit is bullshit?
Okay.
People who haven't listened to the Let's Play or the actual play that we did together should go listen to it because it's a blast. The very short version is Realis is a science fantasy RPG where instead of having basic stats, you have sentences that say things like "I always kill my foe" or "I always win an argument," and those things change over time to get more restricted. Like, I always kill my foe at night, but also more powerful because I always kill my foe at night wins against the +0. I always win an argument, for instance. So yeah, I'm not. The book is like, we're giving you a taste of moons, but the point of the game is to give you the tools to build your own moons. However, a few years ago, I was like, what if I just wrote 1,000 moons? What if I wrote 1 moon a day? It would only take a few years to get to 1,000 moons. And I talked with a friend about it, and that friend, Jack DeKeith, the composer, her friends at the table, was like, Austin, that's a big ask. Are you sure? And I was like, you're right. I'm not going to do it. And then last year, I heard them telling somebody else, but what if we just wrote 1 moon a day? And it's like, it's a disease. It gets in your brain. It feels like a good project. I'm
not a huge, in fact, I don't know that I've ever even heard a Guided by Voices song, but wasn't that the whole thing about that dude is like he'd get up and like write a song every day?
Do a song.
And then go like teach third grade.
I think he's still doing that.
So we'll see. Maybe but between now and when I release the book, I'll decide I want to write 1 moon a day. And then that'll become, back when co-host existed, I was like, that would be a really good co-host account, the 1 moon a day account, write the moon, maybe do a little sketch of it. I'm not an artist, but it would be fun to do that over 1,000 days,
Especially if you feel like you constrain yourself, like it's like 1 sentence per moon or something, like kind of.
Well, yeah,
there's a little more going on with the moons, right?
It's, I think each moon in the book has a set of 4 sentences per moon right now.
I guess I meant like linguistic sentence, not mechanical.
Right, sorry, correct.
Just like very short, 20 words per moon to describe it.
That's right. If you let the mechanic sentences tell the story of the moon instead of writing 4 paragraphs about the history lore. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's the big stuff I got going on. I'm excited to give you all the book. I'll send some art over later.
I'm excited.
I was going to ask you until you mentioned it already if you were even going to have designs on a physical copy, but like because you're talking about the amount of art in there, that sounds like a big book. But
it'll be a big book. I'm excited for it. It's not. It's funny. I really thought it was going to end up being a different scale of thing. And then the response to the Ashcan, the early release that we played, was so positive that we ended up, it did really well, all said, and all of that money is now spent on art. I have no money from it. It all went to artists, which at first I was like, it's sort of like buying a car or something, and you're like, this is a lot of money I'm deciding to spend right now.
This is a big wipeout at once,
Exactly. It's like, I have all this money in my hand. No, I don't. No, I don't. It goes right away. But when I thought about the times we are living in, where we're in the middle of a weird economic nightmare on top of everything else, I was like, actually, it's not going away. It's like going into the pocket of artists I like, whose work I like, and if it grants them even a little more stability, then that's a good expenditure, and
it's benefiting your product, like it all kind of works together.
100%. And my guess is I'll make money back when we're releasing it, obviously.
This is like fleshing out a work that you can be proud of in perpetuity, right?
Yeah, it'll go on a bookshelf. That'll feel cool. Yeah. So
yes. Well, speaking of big books and feeling cool, how's that for a segue?
Yeah, we'll go with it.
Video games, y'all.
Video games.
We've got a stack of them. Like, good God, man. We could maybe talk about nothing but the games we have touched this week for the rest of the show.
Easy.
Yes.
Easy.
We're going to kick it off here. We got a bunch of stuff. Ghost of Yotei, Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles.
Ivalice.
I thought it was.
Ivalice is how they say
it very much
in the game.
I've been pronouncing it very much like the wrestler Ivalice.
So right. That's kind of how well I'm jumping the gun here. That's how I went into this pronouncing it, but all the voice actors say Ivalice.
Okay.
And
well, that doesn't mean anything. The voice actors don't know what's going on.
People with history with this game might have other opinions. We've got baby steps. Alex, you went to a Nintendo event and played Metroid Prime 4.
I did.
And Kirby Air Riders.
I did.
And those Mario Galaxy ports to Switch.
I did before, and then I did this time.
Yes. So yes. So we'll be covering all of that on the show today. Let's start with Ghost of Yotei.
Okay.
my perpetual GameSpot brain always says the big AAA console first-party release is the thing to start with.
You can't kill that part of your brain. I understand it. Even now, I have it.
It's been drilled into you.
It never goes away. So Alex and I have both been playing some Ghost of Yotei, the Sucker Punch follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima for the PS5. I'm just going to say right out of the gate, Alex, like you played way more Assassin's Creed Shadows than I did, but I still put 20 hours into that game. It is straight up remarkable to me how similar the premise of this game is to that game.
Mind fucking blowing.
When I saw the trailer
it is.
And the masked people showed up, I was like, I did this earlier this year. What are we doing?
And
the
like,
masked kill,
And like, I want to be clear, these games were developed concurrently. There's no imitation going on here. Like,
no, I don't think so at all.
No, there is, but it's imitation of the form they are trying to recapture, which is the samurai / like wandering warrior film of the Japanese cinema.
But, these games
the revenge flick with swords.
Right. Yes. Like these games shipped 6 months apart. Like, I'm not implying any imitation or whatever here, but I mean, the details are so crazy. In both cases, young female protagonist in the Sengoku era of Japan witnesses her family and specifically her father, who I think is a blacksmith in both cases, be slaughtered by a group of masked bandits, ne'er-do-wells, villains who all have like animal-like names.
Yes.
The term onryo is featured prominently in both cases. And then it's an open world process of stalking and killing those masked villains to get revenge for your family.
But you don't understand. It's totally different because the other game has Yasuke in it.
Okay,
that's the difference. That is the difference.
That is
he
a
does
prominent
kick people off of buildings and shit, and
which is fun in its own way.
That is a prominent distinction. I am embarrassed to admit I never actually got to Yasuke. Game.
Okay.
There's a lot
beyond the intro. Like I never got
Naue. What is that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Naue stuff in that intro.
Yeah.
Like that, you can do a lot in there. In contrast to like, I remember going back to like AC Origins with not Bayek. What is his name? Something like that.
It's Bayek.
Bayek. Okay, yeah. That intro, I think, was like perfectly paced. You get one little town, you get like one, you can do some open world stuff, and then it's like, okay, moving on to the main plot, the whole world opens up. The Naue stuff goes and goes before you get to Yasuke.
And it's it's the endless bandit camps and castles and stuff to take over. Like you can really, which I did, just kind of burn out doing that stuff endlessly.
Yeah.
Well, and so that to me strikes me immediately as the primary differentiator between these two games, is that for all their similarities in terms of like storyline and setting and all of that, one of them is the absolute maximalist approach and the other is far more minimalist.
Yeah, I'm assuming Yotei is the minimal one in your view.
Yes, definitely, because the map is big, but it does not feel quite as sprawling, at least from the stuff that I've seen and kind of the way the regions seem to be breaking out on that map. As AC, but the other thing is they are also the map does not seem nearly as jam-packed with bullshit. Like there are definitely side objectives, there are like bounties to go find, there's lots of like random, shrines and the onsens and stuff to go sit in and all that kind of stuff. That's all there.
There are 12 types of side activities delineated in the menu.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff, the foxes in the first game, the shrines. Sumie little illustrations, like following the golden bird to points of interest, like all that stuff is still in there.
Yeah, but the key thing that I found, and again, I'm like, I don't know, I'd probably say like 8 hours into it at this point, but the thing I have found is that the way they are placing things on the map and the way they are designing those like random encounters or like, like when you find random shopkeepers that just sort of show up on the map and things like that, there is more going on there than there is in AC, which AC in a lot of ways feels very cut and paste with some of that stuff, as it has kind of in this current quadrilogy of games. But this one, whenever you run into like a shopkeeper or someone that you haven't met before, there's like a little bit of dialogue and narrative that sort of explains who they are as a character and why they're moving around the world and why you're encountering them in different places.
Interesting.
They don't always have like a lot of dialogue once you get past that point. But the initial introduction makes it feel like those things are more bespoke than they are in Shadows.
Yeah, they do a good job making that stuff feel really natural. I don't want to bury the lead here when I say, like, boy, this game feels a lot like Shadows. So far, I like this game significantly more than Shadows.
It
is very much speaking to me more. But if
Tsushima was already very close to like an excellent game, and I came away feeling like, yeah, it was pretty good. It was a little long in the tooth, and like it didn't necessarily like keep developing new ideas. But things like the world design were it was just such a beautiful game. Dude. Great to move around. The duels felt really good in like I'm wrong when I say this, but like a PS2 action game way, not in the sense that it felt like a PS2 action game, but in the sense that when I was playing PS2 action games, I was kind of like just playing the game, and like it just kind of like the flow of sitting down with a controller, like, oh, I'm playing a video game. I'm just playing a video game. The particulars kind of fade away into the rhythm of play, which is not the case for those Assassin's Creed games for me, generally speaking, especially in their combat sequences. I was like, oh, this is like actually kind of an achievement in making one of these that goes down smooth. And so
goes down smooth. That is a great way to describe my time with this game so far. Like there's something really easygoing about navigating this world where like the world design of Shadows felt so constricted and funneled in spots, like all these tight mountain paths, and like, oh, I can't walk through this, this bundle of trees here. I've got to go around. Like this game is just wide open. I mean, they literally start you on the horse in a field of flowers, galloping through the flowers. And
they know what they're doing.
Having the petals fly everywhere. I mean, that's literally the first thing you do in this game. So
I do think this one has a little bit more in the way of invisible walls versus what Shadows has. Like, there's definitely some environmental stuff where they are just cutting you the fuck off by putting a tree line there. But I also think that's not a terrible thing, because a lot of the, like, hey, you can go anywhere, just kind of felt like shit in Shadows. Like, there's all those weird hillsides where you're like, oh, I can technically climb this, but they really seem like they don't want me to. But it feels a little jankier there. I
don't want to be like Morrowinding my way up the mountain in an Assassin's Creed game, and you can really do that in Shadows in a way that's like, and I think partly the problem there is the Assassin's Creed movement style and the level design has historically been very like, oh, I can get a line, I can run the line, and if that means that if I'm running a line in a place that isn't like just like an open city where there's everything's connected, it means there's something at the end of that. I can, like, if I can progress, I'm going towards a treasure chest, I'm going towards a piece of Eden, I'm going towards like something important, and that is not the case in Shadow. Sometimes you can progress to a dead end on top of a mountain that's not even like a good vista, So I didn't hate Shadows. I didn't finish it because it's just so big and it's so overwhelming. Whereas
I played 70 hours of that thing, and I still didn't finish it.
Right. Yep. That sounds like a modern Assassin's Creed game that they release way too often, and even though they're pretty well made, there's just too much.
Yep. I don't want to come into this from the perspective of just dumping on Shadows, because I did play a lot of it and I did enjoy certain parts of it. I think some of the character work in that game is actually quite good, but here, right out of the gate, even though I'm going to say every time they have tried to set up some kind of twist or a thing that might surprise you in the story, it has completely failed to land for me in Yotei. It's not bad. It's just predictable. The storytelling is just not that exciting or able to throw you off. But the character work right out of the gate is quite good. I think your main character, was Atsu is her name, I think. Like, she makes an impression very early on, and the bigger thing is that they waste zero time just getting you into her mission, and then they let you pepper the backstory as it goes along. Like, the tutorial is less than an hour, and then you are in the world and you are going.
And then you straight up fight one of the masked villains in the combat tutorial right at the beginning.
Like, the first boss is just a tutorial villain. Yeah, like it's great.
They throw you out there very quickly. So the thing that really stands out to me about this game is it is a map game in the Western open world sense.
Yes.
But it kind of feels like, okay, like Breath of the Wild is like my gold standard for what an open world should be, or what I want out of an open world game. Like, it feels like they at least looked at that here, because it is a map game, but it's not a game full of map icons, if that makes sense.
No.
Like, all the stuff you're discovering is like Alex said, you're like running into some traveling merchant and talking to him and getting a lead for a quest, or buying a map from a map maker that you run into. Like, it's all of the breadcrumbs to the activities feel pretty contextual, or kind of built into the kind of dynamic storytelling in a way that, at the end of the day, you're still filling out activities on a list, but you don't see the list. They're kind of leading you to the things to do in a way that feels kind of organic.
Well, I think that it's trusting the player a little bit to just sort of lock in with what they're doing here, because the thing about AC is that as much as they talked about the whole thing of oh, no, you're going to have to send your scouts out to find these objectives, and you're going to have to, kind of hunt around for stuff. It's no, when you do that, you press a button and it just shows you where the icon on the map is to go. Like here, when you get these bounties, for instance, the bounties give you a region. They say, hey, they're in the western part of this area. Just go over there. Just go look around. You'll find them eventually. Because again, the map is not so big that going to an area feels like you are running around investigating an impossible area. it is like once you kind of know the general zone of where you need to go, just fuck around, look around. There's other stuff there. Maybe you'll fight a bear. Who knows? But maybe your target will also be there. And it's I think that trust is good because it makes me feel like I am investigating this place. I'm exploring it. I am not just getting the list of places to go.
Yeah, there's some kind of nuts and bolts things about the way this game's put together that have really impressed me. Like, what passes for a quest log kind of is just overlaid on the map. Like, you don't go to a list of missions. You have this, like, they're almost like playing cards. I don't know if maybe they are styled after playing cards, but it's like literally a little like deck of cards in the lower corner of the map that you just shuffle through with the D-pad. And like, that's what sort of passes for your quests indicators.
Yeah.
In a way that I think is really like blended well and doesn't feel like, oh, I need to go slog through a giant list of quest text or whatever. It's just like,
yeah,
here are these cards that are added to my stack of things to do. I think is really,
that's really interesting.
Is really elegantly kind of implemented.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to give you like goals without it feeling like a list of icons on a map in the same way.
Yeah, so,
you know,
and in fact, it kind of moves the focus of the map around as you flip through those. You don't even have to like activate one to like, it just very cleanly kind of shows you where the thing is as you're flipping through those. There's
also a little bit of like I don't know how to describe this other than sort of like a light Carmen Sandiego thing where sometimes we will wander to a place and then you find these random NPCs and the conversation just sort of like goes nowhere until they're like, well, hey, can you give me some information? And then usually there's something you have to do for them, or if you did something for them, they'll just give it to you. But all of them have kind of unique dialogue about all the different targets you're looking for. So like the way they explain something isn't just the cut and paste, like I think the Shadows version of this is like, hey, can you give me some information? And then the guy just kind of silently nods, and then you just know something.
And then an icon appears on your map
for everything.
And in the Shadows example, when you nod your head, or when they nod their head, an icon appears on your map. You know,
exactly.
And this again feels much more elegant. I actually I had a situation where I reloaded a save for, I forget what happened that I wanted to redo. I ran into a different character in a different setting who actually gave me the same dialogue and quest lead as a person that had done it. It was like a woman instead of a man. It was like before it had been a merchant. This time it was, I forget what her deal was, but like they went out of their way to seed the same information in different places with different characters so that you could have like kind of a more dynamic or random feeling path through the story breadcrumbs.
Now that's good GMing right there.
Yeah,
sure. You don't have to meet the one guy. You missed that one guy. Someone else is going to have the information. And it's okay.
I did it 10 minutes apart, so I can tell you it was like literally the same dialogue, same lines and everything, just recorded.
Different voice actor,
different voice actors and everything. It was cool.
It's funny because like that's the stuff that actually Ubisoft will do in some of their the way that they have thought about producing voice lines and stuff like Watch Dogs is filled with this, right? But I think that as the games have gotten bigger, they just like they can't do that anymore because there's just too much of it. You know, I think about those games a lot. Like Alex, you'll remember this. The stories Dan used to always say about Vince McMahon being like, why would you watch a movie that's not on the WWE network?
Right.
Like you just, it's everything. And those games are so big that they feel like they're supposed to be the one game you're playing that year. And like, Izgimo is like, well, why would you play anything that isn't Assassin's Creed Shadows? You know, you could race in Assassin's Creed Shadows. You could kill it. You could do all the things you do in all video games in one game.
Well, I mean, the good news is Ubisoft that's the last game they put out. So that is the last game you will ever have to play from them. Just so, you know, it's going to last you forever.
That's right. Well, whereas this feels like it's taking some of the lessons from stuff like Watch Dogs, where it's like, okay, we can deliver that information across a couple of different vectors, but actually just giving the information and like spending the time to produce actual like voice assets that make it feel particular to the narrative moment that you're in, instead of just one more thing that our level designers and like our gameplay designers can just put in the system and put a mark on the map and say, make an NPC add this to your map. That's like so much more characterful in Yotei, it sounds.
Yeah, it is. And like the thing I've come away from it so far, I mean, other than just liking it more than Shadows and generally liking it, is that it just feels like they have a much better handle on what they want to do with this setting in this game than they did in the last one. Like Tsushima, beautiful as it was a game that I felt was kind of beset by the fact that they were so determined to be respectful to Japan and the culture and the history that they kind of lost any of the stuff that makes samurai is like cinema interesting, which is the weirdness, the violence, the luridness of that whole thing.
Yeah.
And here I feel like they have, because they had that first game and they kind of got that shit out of their system, now they're at least trying to get a little weirder with it and giving a little bit. I mean, it is still a fairly boilerplate revenge story, but the character work and the general vibe definitely has like a little bit more like grime to it that I kind of appreciate. As beautiful as the world still is,
sure,
the story and the revenge and all that stuff, like there's a weird element to it that I think is actually pretty good so far.
Yeah, I think they're kind of working with like a slightly broader palette here too. Like this game is set in Hokkaido, the northern island of Japan, and like
beautiful.
You run into some Ainu characters like very early on, the kind of indigenous people of the island, and there's like stuff in there about the shogun encroaching on their territory and like displacing them, and like you get little touches of the Ainu language and stuff. Like it's just it feels a little more well-rounded than the first game did.
Is there any of that stuff? So the first game was really interested in this, like, Jin, is that what the main Jin? Jin Sakai was like. He's walking into the shadow and like trying to balance the. Are you more of a ninja or are you more of a samurai? Are you honorable or are you dishonorable? And then like narratively, that ended up being the big break. Was like, your uncle wants you to remember that you are supposed to be this honorable warrior noble. Even though the game was kind of like all the way through very clear that the samurai, not very clear, but always like butting up against the thing of like the samurai are basically like cops for rich people. And the game is not unaware of that, but it can never quite get away from this like, oh, are you the ghost or are you the samurai, you know? And I'm curious, does it have any of that? Or are you
not
just
really.
like, I'm out to kill people to get revenge.
I'm
going to use whatever methods I can.
I think Alex is further in than I am, but even from the few hours I've played, like she's just killing everyone left and right without remorse.
And it's just not concerned about that. Like the whole thing with her is like, and this is not much of a spoiler, but I will just say like in the opening thing, like there's this perception that she may have died in that opening battle, but then she just gets up and everyone's like, she was dead. What the fuck? And so there's this sort of like push pull between, is she actually some kind of vengeful wraith or is she just a person? But the game at this point has not really made any serious decisions about that. I don't think the gameplay is really concerned with that. It's more of a flavoring and kind of giving her this sort of like aura that she has as she goes along.
I mean, there is your kind of like clicking both sticks super ability that does feel borderline supernatural that I haven't quite figured out yet. But
I also can't figure out if your wolf is real or not.
Yeah, there's a wolf that shows up and helps you out here and there.
That first game had a few things that felt like slightly magical in that way, in terms of like running into a character in a strange place, or like the way a lightning storm would break out during a certain duel in a way that even the characters were kind of like, wait, you brought this with you, like something's off about this moment. That it's cool that they're gonna, if they lean into more of that stuff, that would be very cool.
Even if they're not going all the way supernatural with it, the way they kind of use that to sort of give this character that aura, I think is really cool. And again, I think the Erika Ishii performance is really good. I think the character work in general is quite good. The combat is still great, like the sword stuff and the duels and all that. Like, still very thoughtful in a way that AC definitely is not. Because they're just going for a different thing with that stuff. And so far, I think I'm pretty invested in what they are trying to do, specifically because they are not just trying to do the same thing they did in Tsushima. Like, it feels like they're stretching their legs more. But not in making a shit ton more content, just in letting that world feel different and more interesting than they could in the last one.
Yeah, I will emphasize like the combat, the upgrade loop. You're still collecting bamboo and flowers and like buying armor dyes and all that stuff. Like all the kind of nuts and bolts of the mechanics feel super familiar from the first game. It's more what they're doing with the setting and the storytelling and kind of some of the like fit and finish of how it's put together again with like the quest stuff. There's actually a handful of like fast loading on the PS5 things I wanted to highlight. This is the first time I've been impressed by that stuff since like Spider-Man 2 probably, with the fast travel. This game, when you launch it from the dashboard, no title screen, no PlayStation Studios logo, it loads straight into your save game with nothing in between, quite literally nothing, which I feel like is something they were promising 5 years ago. And this is the first game to actually do that. I mean, it's like 5 seconds from pressing X and you were just running around in the world.
It's kind of amazing.
I think the fast travel is also faster than Spider-Man here, but they do a thing where any location you fast travel to that has like vendors or people to talk to or upgrade stations or whatever, when you fast travel to it, it just pops a menu of all of those different like characters and upgrade stations and stuff, and you just pick one, and it literally just like fast spawns you straight in front of the forge.
Wild.
Or straight in front of the map maker. It's just like, it's like convenience feature to the point of excess almost.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something I want to shout out. We don't have to talk about this whole game because I'm not far enough into it. I don't have much to say. But I started playing Trails in the Sky First Chapter, the remake of the first of those long-running Trails games, the JRPGs that Falcom makes. And on PC, when you boot it up on Steam, it gives you the option to just continue your most recent save, and it loads right into the game where you are.
Nice.
And I need every PC game that is structured like a big, AAA style RPG or action game to just let me do that. I don't want to see a title screen. I don't want, just bring me in. That this is a thing consoles have gotten us used to because of suspend mode. Do it. I want it. Thank you. Using the pulpit here.
Yes,
the change that matters.
This is the time.
There's one other thing they do here, which is there's certain spots where you can kind of basically flashback to an earlier time, like mid.
Oh, right.
Yes.
And again, they're very clearly like loading a different version of the environment in. It's mostly
that
like
felt like a PS5 like showcase thing, like the Ratchet and Clank
Ratchet stuff. Yeah,
I think they handle that pretty well. Like you go back to your house pretty early on in this game, and that's where your family was murdered, and so you're there with the house falling down and everything trashed 16 years later. But you can literally just kind of flash between both time periods back to
That's cool.
Back to being a child and like talking to your family while everything's colorful and everything. It's just handled really well. It's a pretty minor trick, but I think they do a good job with it.
Before we talk about the last thing here, I just want to say like the big thing for me, the thing that like has just given me the most relief in this game compared to the other one is that you have the targets. They call them the Yotei 6. They are the big bads in the game. And that's it. There is not 17 other circles of targets that you need to go kill.
Mm-hmm.
There are probably other people you will have to assassinate in more significant ways than just killing random grunts at various times, but they do not have a giant splash screen of 17 circles of groups you barely understand why they're there. They are the 6 people that murdered your family. You know why you want them to die. Here you go. Yeah. That's it.
Yep. Yes, there's kind of a purity of focus here. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's so funny to think about how the macro or the meta story in Assassin's Creed with the modern day setting and the animus and all that was sort of concocted at the time, reporting said, and I believe interviews have said this now, because Ubisoft wasn't confident that historical games had an audience and that there needed to be some sort of like sci-fi hook. And now it's been so many years, and like all of the lore that came from needing the eons of battles between the assassins and the Templars and all of the different subgroups and all of the different has like become not just load bearing but a burden in a real way.
Oh yeah,
so
much so that apparently they're stripping that shit out of that Black Flag update that is coming down the road. Which I mean, granted,
really?
Black Flag had some of the least important animus stuff I think of any of those games.
But it was funny because that was the one where you were a game developer for Abstergo, and whatever, it's fine. People are gonna like that game just fine. People like Black Flag.
Yeah,
that stuff was
I didn't
fun.
like it because of that stuff, so it's fine, whatever.
Right.
But it's also interesting that they are making those choices now when they are choosing what fat to cut.
Yes, 100%.
Now the last thing, unfortunately,
speaking of people being cut, things being cut.
The unfortunate thing is this game does have a pall over it, which is that, one of their senior artists at Sucker Punch was let go because of comments made about the Charlie Kirk killing, a joke that was made about Mario and Luigi. You can do whatever you want with that. Dumb joke, but apparently they, after being there for 10 years, they were fired because of those comments. And I got to tell you, as I'm playing this game, that is not sitting very well with me.
Yeah, she was an artist for a decade at this place.
Yeah,
and a game series that we have now said repeatedly is like one of its big defining features is its art. Not that if this person had been a QA tester, that would make it any more acceptable or good. And we don't have to go beat for beat on what this joke is, but this is not a joke that is about anyone's character or about whether or not someone should be killed. And even if it were, I think that this is an overreaction. And I think that there's like, in a real way, the fact that this was done in that big swing of Kimmel being taken off the air and other sorts of, quote unquote repercussions coming down for a response to this stuff. really even the things have already turned on this sort of maneuver. It's become pretty clear, I think, that this was an overreaction, or this type of maneuver is an overreaction that limits people's freedom of speech, especially someone who has served you for this this long, and
especially in this industry environment where like
100%.
people are already losing their jobs like crazy. Like putting one more person out there because of a joke they made just feels like callous in a way that I can't imagine any of them really thought through very well.
It has been 11 years of seeing what happens when you give people who are calling for blood. It encourages the worst sort of harassment. It lets them believe that they can do whatever they want to your employees. I'm not saying that there aren't standards and that there shouldn't be some sort of repercussion internally or some sort of conversation that should happen, but a fairly public firing of an individual in this atmosphere, I think lines you up with the wrong people. Really and truly. And
on top of that, though, I mean, we talked about the Kimmel thing. Like, Kimmel is back because Kimmel was able to generate an amount of attention that, made that, just like unbearable for the people who let him, or, put him on hiatus, fired him, whatever you want to call it. Other people do not have that kind of pressure. So, like, this artist does not have that kind of, like, groundswell around them. Was it Gretchen Felker-Martin lost, her job writing for Red Hood or one I forget which
it was a Red Hood comic for DC, yeah.
And, like, she hasn't gotten her job back. Like, nope. I can't... Those overreactions are only going to be, dealt with when there is that level of outcry, like maybe not quite a Kimmel level, but, like, the Kimmel thing was fucking crazy. And I would very much like to see some of those people that feel like they also got overreacted on at least talk to about being brought back into the fold, because a lot of these jokes that I've seen going around that are supposedly the ones that got people fired, pretty fucking tame by the general standards of the internet these days.
Yeah, it might be worth mentioning she actually came out and defended Sucker Punch after she was let go, so it kind of... I'm not going to assume anything about what went on.
She is not calling for a boycott. She is saying that she loved her time there and loves her team there, and then proud of the work and all that.
Yeah, so I don't know at what level this decision was made or whatever, but...
Yeah, great question. Great, yes. I'm reading between the lines, Brad. Yeah. I think that sometimes decisions like this can come from different tiers of bosses and management, and it is one of the great difficulties of working in the games industry and the complex relationships between publishers, developers, the people in between, Yeah.
And let's also not forget that people have been wicked shitty to Erika Ishii about about her performance being in this game, being the central character in this game, it being a woman, all that kind of stuff. Like, they don't deserve that shit either. And Sucker Punch probably should know better, considering the way that Erika has been treated online in the course of, that game's announcement to here.
Mm-hmm. And just to be clear, this is not the only game studio where this has happened.
No.
Probably Monsters fired somebody, Ready or Not fired somebody, Void Interactive fired somebody. Ready or Not is the game from Void Interactive. Like, this stuff has been happening for the last week and a half. And I think
this is just the most prominent example of it.
That is right. That is exactly why. And we're talking about the game,
Yeah.
So the irony is not lost on me.
It's a really shitty thing to have hanging over this product, because they actually made something that seems genuinely pretty great.
Yes. The irony is not lost on me that, Charlie Kirk, the reason that his fans, one of the reasons they claim to like him is because he was a crusader for free speech, even free speech you might not agree with. And the response to this has been corporate and governmental censorship. Which is fundamentally different than people saying, we don't like what you're saying and we're not going to buy your product or support you financially. These are different things. I spent too many years in the 2010s arguing with strangers on the internet about what censorship is to not be clear that it's when people who have explicit power use that power to quiet you explicitly, and most importantly through governmental power, but also in our modern age through corporate power. That is the thing we mean when we say censorship, not someone saying, I don't think you should use slurs.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah, very different.
Yes. Perhaps yet another object lesson that the corporation is rarely going to have your back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Anyway, that's Ghost of Yotei.
Yeah.
That is, it's $70. It's out on October 1st. I'm sure we will be talking about it more after Vinny gets back next week.
Busy fall.
A lot going on. A lot of video games here. I am very excited to talk about Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. Before we do that, let's take a quick break here and towel off a little bit and come back.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hot here right now. And we'll talk about some more video games. We'll see you in a minute. All right, we're back. Austin, this game is the reason that I was excited you were able to make this podcast. When codes came in, like I looked at the embargo, like Vinny was going to be out this week. We needed a guest. It's like, oh my God, please, please let Austin be available. Because I know your love of Final Fantasy Tactics.
It is real, and I am so glad that this game is widely available on platforms that people can actually buy it on and play it on, and I'm so glad it's gotten this retouch. I think the script is pretty good. We should slow down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to know why let's start with why are you excited that I'm here to talk to you about Final Fantasy Tactics, besides that I like Final Fantasy Tactics?
The other reason is that I was, despite being a huge Final Fantasy fan back in the 90s, I never played this game. I mean, I touched it. I touched it for like 20 minutes once, maybe. I played it at a friend's house for 20 minutes or something. But I never played through this game, so this was going to be my first real exposure to it. And having your perspective as somebody who, did you play it? You played the original?
It's so hard to communicate to people who are maybe younger than us what this era of PlayStation Squaresoft games felt like, where, obviously Final Fantasy VII was just gigantic. But there was this moment where between this and Final Fantasy Tactics, and they published Bushido Blade, and so people were getting Bushido Blade to get demos of whatever. You know what I mean?
It was like 3 or 4 or 5 big Squaresoft games a year at some point.
Yeah, that's right. Brave Fencer Musashi. Right. Let us not forget.
Also, it's easy to forget. And I was thinking about this morning why I never played Tactics. It's because mainline Final Fantasies were shipping every year. It was nonstop. It was 97, 99, 2000. It was every 18 months there was another main Final Fantasy to play.
It was a great time, and those games were long even for us back when we had all the time in the world. There was a lot to get through. I think first of all, very, very important to understand that context. It was a huge game then. It introduced me to this style of game. I think maybe I'd played a tactics game once before, because I think there was a Godzilla tactics game on the NES that I rented as a kid, and it was you're moving units around on a board, sort of like chess.
Right.
But beyond that, I'd never played a tactics game before this game. And I think I really think, and I've played a lot of its similar games from that era. It's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like peers of its time.
Contemporaries.
It's contemporaries. Thank you, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's not a mistake that this is the one that hit for people. I think that they made a game that understood the limits and pressures and the qualities of the console that made it good. I replayed Tactics Ogre, the remake of that, a couple of years ago, which is from the same director, I believe, and was seen as a predecessor of this game.
Yeah, so actually, I'm sitting here looking at the Wikipedia page. I did not realize this, because I was thinking this morning, I was like, did Final Fantasy Tactics invent the strategy RPG? No, there were some others before. Ogre Battle was the name that stood out in my mind as a Super Famicom style or game in this style. Yasumi Matsuno apparently created Ogre Battle. And then 100%. Went and directed this game. So this game is very much of the lineage of the genesis of this type of game.
Yeah, Ogre Battle is weird because Ogre Battle is real-time tactics.
Okay.
But Tactics Ogre, which is 2 years before this, he directed that and was the scenario writer for that, is a lot like this, but the stages are bigger and it's a little more complex, and there's branching paths, which is all cool. I kind of think about Tactics Ogre as feeling a little bit more like I'm going to be very clear, this is a very brute force analogy. Okay. I think of Tactics Ogre as Shin Megami Tensei, and I think of Final Fantasy Tactics as Persona.
Got it. Yep. Okay.
Both in terms of them being a little more open-ended in terms of outcomes and endings, but also in terms of complexity and stuff like that. But I really think that, I'm not saying that to take away from Tactics. What I'm actually saying is, I think with Tactics, Matsuno was how do I make this hit? And I think it's a tactical RPG with a really beautiful polygonal level design, a really crisp, straightforward, but still complex political story. And at the heart of it is like character relationships, which I think we were all learning in the PS1 era of our era, that like, oh, video games could be about characters in a way that I wasn't, like, even deeper than Final Fantasy, even deeper than we thought on the SNES Final Fantasy games. Like, you can really do complex relationships between best friends turned to rivals. That's like the lesson I learned from the PlayStation. A video game can do that. I just think I'm very happy to have this game available for you to play on a PC or a Switch or whatever, you know?
So there's so many different ways to approach this, because there's like my first time with it. There's what you think of how they've kind of dressed it up. And
let's start with your first time, because a listener might not have ever played this game.
So like, I feel like Tactics has taken on like kind of a mythical quality in the last few years. I mean, some of this is social media, because I'm sure like people had these feelings. God, it's been almost 30 years, right? 97, I think, is when.
97,
so like, people have had the same feelings about this game for that long, but it's only been in recent years as like memes float around. And, you know, like you've got there's straight up a genre of meme from this game of people inserting dialogue into the characters' mouths, right? So like, it's taken on like a little bit more of like an outsized cultural role, I think. But digging into it, I'm starting to see exactly why people feel the way they do about it. Like, dude, that game wears its class politics on its sleeve. Like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. Like,
it has never been more clear. Yeah.
2 hours into the game or something, you've already got like, there was a giant war and all the soldiers coming back from the war. Like, wow, there were no jobs for them, and the government sure didn't give a shit about them.
The nobles didn't pay them the promised, back pay that they fought thinking they'd get.
They have no jobs and no money, so now they're rebelling. So now we the nobles have to kill them.
That's right.
Except one of the people working with us is a lowborn who like ...
who can like kind of see things for what they are because of his unique position, having gone to the academy, but also being lowborn and being a sort of like tokenized member of the family, all that stuff. It's great. Yeah. I think that the relationship between Ramza and Delita is like an all-timer. And I think that, there's a guy in this game who moves like the shitty, government bureaucrat in Ghostbusters, except he's
Walter
a noble.
Peck.
Walter Peck. It's like, what if Walter Peck was a noble? And again, for 12-year-old Austin or whatever, this was eye-opening. You know, what if a rich person just thought that poor people should be under his boot? Sometimes you learn lessons early. I think that this story is fantastic. Brad, I how far into it are you?
I'm still in chapter 1. Like Weegraf was just kind of revealed as who he is.
Okay,
like, I'm in the slums of, is it Dorder?
Oh, you're at the level. This is.
I read the Ethan Gatch review on Kotaku of this game this morning, and he straight up called out that slums map as being somewhat infamous.
Dorder Trade City, or depending on what your translation is, it's Dorder, is like a one of the early filters where it's like, do you know how to play this game? And I want to say this, I think they've rebalanced this game pretty well in a couple of different ways. And for me, the litmus test for this was there was a bit early on, a little bit before that, where I was like, normally, this is where I try to go back and forth between Zone A and between these two cities and trigger some random battles so that I can grind out up to level 4 or 5 so that I can get through Dorder no problem. And I didn't have to do that this time.
Okay.
I think that they've reworked a bunch of stuff in this game. Again, so for people who don't know, it's a tactical RPG in the sense that you have a bunch of units, normally between 4 and 6 units. On a random battle, you can bring in 5. Sometimes you can bring in 4, but they give you a couple of guest characters that are computer controlled. You're moving them around the board as if it's chess, but the maps are often multi-leveled vertically. Height is a big part of it, as you were about to learn, Brad.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the thing about Dorder, is there's a really tall building that there's a sniper on. Character movement is important. Timing is really important, because once you get mages, you'll learn that most of the mage classes, mage jobs, spell casting takes time. So Cure might only take a couple of turns in the turn order, and so it's okay. You can target your guy who you want to heal and then get them healed up before the enemy goes. But sometimes you're like, I want to target someone who's going to go before my spells finish. Before Fire 1 is cast, they're going to move. And I can target it on wherever they go. but what if they move next to one of my guys and this AoE spell suddenly hits one of my guys? You start making those sorts of decisions. And then in the macro, it's a game about planning how you want to build out your character. There's a bunch of different job classes, and to unlock them, what's required is that you level up previous job classes to a certain degree. So it's like Samurai requires you to get Knight to level 4 and Monk to level 3 or something like that. And to get Monk unlocked, first you have to get Knight to level 3. And to get Knight to level 3, first you have to get Squire to level 2. And then you can get unlocked Knight. And so you're kind of like moving down those things. And as you move through those jobs, like other job systems in Final Fantasy, you can spend job points to permanently unlock certain class features to bring into other classes. So for instance, you can early on be a Squire who gets the job point up passive and bring that with you into Knight and use that instead of the Knight's passive, which is like I don't think Parry's a reaction. It's different, but you know what I mean, basically.
Yes.
Oh, you might get, for instance, from Knight, you might get, I can always use swords. And so you might go on to be a black mage, but have the Knight I can use swords ability, allowing you to use a really powerful sword even though you're a black mage now. That sort of mix and match stuff is a big part of the mechanical joy of the game, along with the fact that some of the late game classes are just very bananas, very cool. Geomancers do different things based on the tiles in the level. I don't know if you've noticed this, Brad.
Yes, I did notice that it gives some kind of feedback as you mouse over different tiles.
Yeah, it says like what the Geomancer thing will do. And then like, I think they're called arithmeticians now. They used to be called calculators. Do spells based on like how much HP someone has. Like, do they have an 8 in their current amount of HP?
Great.
If so, cut their health in half. Or everyone whose level is a prime number take damage on the stage for no MP. Very, very weird stuff. But I think that's a big part of why the game lasted, was like all of that stuff was really cool. All of that stuff was like really complex. But I think that the core of it is, this is a story about a civil war in a country that creates drama in people's interpersonal lives and has a politics that is legible and interesting and, compelling. It's a real like, sometimes someone is right, but too much,
Sure.
type story. And I'm really excited for you to see more of it, Brad.
Gosh, there's a lot I want to follow up on there. I mean, I'm surprised how well the story is working for me, because like they have done a pass on the graphics, but it's still, fundamentally it's still some small PS1 era sprites moving around on a grid.
I was sure they were going to do like a 2D HD remake of this. I guess that's the other thing. A few years ago that leaked in that NVIDIA thing that a remaster was coming or a remake was coming. I think there was a lot of question, especially after FF7R. What's the remake of this game look like? And the answer is it's this game. They put this game out again. They put like a light CRT filter on it.
It's widescreen. Like they kind of did a filter on the sprites, but they're still the sprites. Anyway, like I'm surprised how well the story is working for me, even with those limitations. But it was when I started getting into the mechanics of the game is when the fever started rising up the back of my neck, because I don't think I have really engaged with the Final Fantasy with the job system before. Like, believe it or not.
I was wondering.
Because back in the day, we didn't get the ones with the job systems. Those were the ones, for whatever reason, that stayed in Japan. It was like 2, 3, and 5, I think, are the ones.
2, 3, and 5.
And those never came over here. And then
you had dress spheres at least. Though,
they,
right?
They started
which is job adjacent.
Eventually everything became the job system to some degree. But
right, that's true.
But explicitly just switching jobs, learning abilities, mixing and matching. Like, as soon as I started getting into that in this game, I'm really enjoying Yotei. Like, baby steps is amazing, but as soon as I started digging into like looking at the flow chart of like, okay, I need this class and this class to make this class, I was like, I kind of just want to grind job stuff in this game, which is like hilarious because grinding was kind of anathema to me back in the day. Like, you didn't want to do it, and now that's kind of all I want to do here.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and explicitly they've made it easier than it used to be. You did not used to be able to stand on a node and say, "Give me another fight here." That is new.
Yes.
It was a very annoying.
Was it just the classic running back and forth until it triggered, basically?
100%. Yep. 100%. And I think there's other things that are like smaller changes that are still huge. There's autosave in this game.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game you could get soft locked in.
Yes.
In the original release. There are a number of fights, specifically some one-on-one fights, where you could like wind up in a really bad state. And that's a huge change. Is that oh, I might have an autosave from before I came, like 2 fights ago, which was far enough back for me to make some big changes so that when I come into this fight, I'm not doomed already. There's also, you can also retreat from battles now and like just go back to, outside of the battle fully. And that was not available in the way that it is here now. That's huge. And then I think there's a lot of things that like we would call quality of life changes. That R2, I think it's R2 view, that like top-down tactical view.
Huge.
It's huge.
So this game has the enhanced version that's like new script, voice acting, like widescreen, tons of quality of life and UI changes, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's also got, I forget, maybe they call it Classic Edition or whatever, which is
I think that's right.
Pretty much the original game with I think the War of the Lions from PSP script.
Yeah, I wish it was the original script. So not in both, but we'll talk. We can get into that. Yeah.
So I didn't even play the classic edition in this. Instead, I wheeled around behind me and turned on my Mister and just played real ass Final Fantasy Tactics.
Hell yeah, brother.
On the PlayStation because I needed to see Blame Yourself or God for myself.
Yes,
but
because now it's Blame Yourself or the Father.
Yeah,
which is different than the War of the Lions script.
Right.
Which was like, blame it on the fate of your birth or faith or something like that. A little bit more, wordy and not as clear as that. I think Yourself or the Father is at least close to the heart of the thing.
There's something so blunt and brutal about the original line.
I know.
It's so good.
It's so like Conan like. It's that kind of like, fucking blame your God or blame yourself, man.
And it feels like one of those accidental or like emergent classic lines because that script is kind of rough just from the like hour I've played of the original game. Like it feels very much like a 90s PlayStation localization.
Yeah.
And so for that line to come out of that is fun. But the reason I brought that up was that game does not have the new R2 straight overhead tactical view. I don't know. I almost don't know how you play that game without that. Like,
you dealt with it, man, because I think it's a game. So again, for people who haven't seen it necessarily, you should go look up screenshots or gameplay. The map is a sort of a landmass floating in the ether. They tend to be fairly small. Again, in contrast to some other tactics games like Tactics Ogre, or think about something like the oh my god, what am I blanking? Fire Emblem games, which have these huge sprawling maps, especially by the mid or late game. You're moving people all over the place. They have little like, it'll be a desert and there'll be like a northwest part of the desert across a river. Like those maps are huge. These tend to be pretty compact and pretty zoomed in. It'll be like an early one that I know you've done already, Brad, is a little town that has like a river running down the middle of it, or like a canal, and then a bridge that it crosses left to right, but it's all just one street, basically. There's like a set of buildings on one side, a set of buildings on the other side, and it's only but the size of a chessboard. Like, it's not a huge, 100 tile, or like, it's not like 40 by 40, it's like 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 or something. And those things are not flat. There are buildings. There are sometimes what look like abandoned or ruined churches, or there's a tower or a tall hill, and those obstruct your view pretty outright, and you can only rotate the camera to kind of 4 positions. You don't have free cam, so sometimes it looks like there should be a view for me here for to easily line it up, but no. And I have always felt like that's a choice and not a limitation. They could have given you free camera control on R1, L1, and instead they have these other views, and it produces this, like, there's a diorama effect. You always see the structures in a way that feels like someone has built them out of paper or something in front of you. But this tactical view lets you just take that top-down view, and where you can see
everything
past all of that in a way that I think is really good.
It's huge. It's I genuinely, again, you may do with what you had, but like, having played this new version, it's hard. It would be hard to go back.
I do wish it was a toggle. I do wish you could toggle it instead of hold it, but it's still a huge addition.
Another one I noticed is in this game you can move, like fiddle with the actions you would take after you've moved, and then decide to just reset the entire turn and start over. In the original game, you have to commit to the move before you can even access any of you might move yourself to a spot where you then can't attack based on range, and you're like, oh well, oops. And like that's been smoothed out now. That
has made playing as an archer so much easier. Yes. Because you used to have to count distance, and then you had height to that, where you're like, okay, I think if I'm higher up, I can hit a little further, or, oh, can I hit straight down? you can't check, and there's no saving between turns in this game, even now. So you can't like do the thing where like, let me just save scum and see if this would work the way I hope it does. There was a lot of playing that game to begin with, was a lot of saving before a fight and then trying something in the first turn to learn the rules of the game.
Sure.
And just having the ability to cancel a movement, across the map is huge. There are some things, I'll give you a warning. There are some abilities later that give you things like recover MP when you walk. If you have that activated and you move, you can't undo that. So there are a couple of instances where it is still like, oh, you've done a thing, you've taken an action, you've effectively immediately removed your hand from the chess piece because you've done an actual move already. But other than that, that's a huge change. And I think that they've done some other changes. I feel like I mentioned Archer being easier now. I think they've made aim one of the core Archer abilities that lets you take a little bit longer to shoot. Either they've made it do more damage or they've made it come out faster. I'm not sure what. I did not get a chance to go back and do a direct comparison to the original, but that felt different to me. And then in general, I have felt like the balance. One of the things I also decided was like, I'm not going to overgrind, and I'm not going to like do any abusive builds. I'm not going to do the thing where I'm like, I'll rush Ramza to Monk and do blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to play this as if it's a fresh game. The story said Ramza's a knight now. I'm going to make him a knight now.
Sure.
How does this feel? Oh, it feels pretty good. I don't feel like I don't feel like I've rushed into this job too soon, which is a thing that could happen sometimes in the original release where you're like, shit, I should have stayed in Squire for another couple of levels to get those stats or whatever, I think that the balance changes have been pretty good.
Yeah, I will say, like, so I did have an Archer and I have run into the aim stuff, and I think I maybe did read that they actually made aim a little faster or something, but it still feels like they haven't sanded all the punitive edges off, because the first time I used aim, I was like, surely this is going to track my target and not the tile, right?
Not the tile.
And
yeah.
Sure, like first time I fired an aim off, I shot one of my own guys because I forgot and moved on to that tile. And I was like, okay, well, you can kill your own guys with aim if you're not careful.
That's the thing. It may be tracking the target, but if you move someone in front
maybe that's what it was.
The thing, you'll hit the person.
That has to be what it was.
Archer stuff by default doesn't go in an arc over. If it's a tile that can be hit, you'll hit that tile.
Yep.
There's also there was another thing that a big part of aim being easier to use in some ways is it surfaces the turn order so much more clearly now on the left bar there. And it's very easy to quickly go through and check to see, if you see someone starting to cast a spell, you can go over there, hover over them, and see where it's targeted to.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, you can also mark spots on the map. I don't know if you've stumbled into this. I think it's one of the thumbsticks in or something. You'd like highlight a tile, which is a very funny addition. It's like, for instance, let's say that there's a mage who can cast a powerful spell, and you look at their like possible targeting range from where they're standing. You can mark it, or let's say you try to do the thing of like thinking a few moves ahead, where it's like, okay, they can move 4 and their current distance is 6. Let me mark this one spot as the furthest extent of where they could move and then attack at. I think that's kind of fun. It's not how I play the game, but I think especially if you're playing like a challenge run where you're trying to do like a no death run or a no hit run or a level 1, you know what I mean? One of those weird ones. It's going to be really useful to have those tools to make some judgments with.
And they do have a new higher difficulty mode where stuff like that.
I'm not playing that. I am not touching it. That game is hard enough for me as it is.
That was mentioned in the Kotaku review as being pretty punishing.
Dude.
The turn order thing I found is it's also useful, but it can also be a double-edged sword, because enemies on both sides, or characters on both sides, when they die or go down, they kind of bleed out over several turns. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of see in the turn order when one of your characters is going to die. And I'm just like a habitual min-maxer of everything. I'm like, okay, I can get through this without using a Phoenix down. I know I can. And like, next thing you know, one of your good side characters or Ramza is just gone. It's like, okay, I can see in 5 turns Ramza's going to turn into a crystal and I'm done. And I'm sure I can pull this out. And then I super
the stuff where they turn into crystals is so funny, and or into treasure chests when it's an enemy who has something to pick up. I also am curious, have you hit the great moment that I think all first time Final Fantasy Tactics players have hit, where you're like, this person can use items, why can't they use a Phoenix Down? And the answer is they don't know how. You haven't given them the Phoenix Down skill.
Like the two of my squires can use potions, but nothing else right now.
That's right. Yeah. But also sometimes all you need is for someone to have a potion, and that feeling of like, oh, right, I gave Gustav the ability to use potions. This is so clutch. Like normally he's like my upfront knight, but I can have him heal the mage, which gives her an extra turn to da-da-da-da-da. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so I will admit I did wipe on Dorter the first time I got there because I didn't bring anybody in who could use Phoenix Downs. Very arrogantly, I was like, I got this. I'm cruising through this, and then Ramza went down, and I could not kill everybody before he turned into a crystal. That was that.
It is the first filter. It's one of the first times I ever got stuck on a video game level for more than a week. Yeah, I was like, I don't know how to do it. I just don't know how to do it.
But how good did it feel when you did know how to do it?
Oh, it felt incredible.
Yeah.
It felt so good.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, it takes hours and hours to hit another point like that where you're like, oh, this is like a really, really hard level. So how is the script working for you?
It's
this
fine.
is the first time
it's fine. It's like it's verbose, but in like a pretty pleasing way. I think it's generally pretty well written. Like the voiceover is suitably British.
Yeah,
like I'm finding the lower, more mercenary type characters are more sort of like Cockney and like rough around the edges, and like that stuff seems to be cast pretty well. Like how do you like it?
I think the voices really help some of the some background. When War of the Lions came out on PSP, which is the first remake of this game, I think that script is really polarizing. Okay. There are people who find that game to be filled with purple prose and overly verbose, and you lose a lot of the snappiness of the PS1 game translation, things like Blame Yourself or God. And I've always held that both translations have their own ups and downs. What I will say is this one is clearly based on the War of the Lions one. You can go page for page and be like, oh, this is like mostly the same. But some of the edits or new localization have been done, it feels explicitly for voice acting to make things a little smoother in places. And I really think having voice acting genuinely makes the script better. For me, it's like the difference between reading Shakespeare on the page and seeing it on stage, where a performance can bring comedy to light. A line that might not hit for you, or you might even be like, I kind of know what this means, but I'm not sure. When you hear someone say it, it really, oh yeah, I get what's going on here. I understand what's happening here.
Like I have not gotten past a single line of spoken dialogue in this game.
No, it's all really good. I also just think we are maybe in a different fantasy milieu where after a decade of 15 years of Game of Thrones stuff, we're all a little more comfortable with certain turns of phrase and certain types of dialects, even the fantasy dialects that kind of line up here. And I think that there is, like I said earlier, like I think it's a combination of complexity and simplicity. Like there was a war between two sides, and we're living in the hangover of that war. Is pretty clear, and is the motivations seem all very straightforward for all of the main characters, and I don't think that the script hides any of that. I don't think it gets in the way of that stuff. And it's fun to hear some of these voices. What the fuck is his name? Gargafian, the mercenary guy that I guess from that first scene at this point probably has a great voice.
He was specifically the one I was thinking of as being like very rough around the edges and fits the character.
Totally. Yeah. When he is like, all right, basically he's like, I'm not a knight of the Holy Order. I was paid by the Knights of the Holy Order. His delivery on that is really strong, and I think that my hope is that the script goes down smoother for people because of the dialogue, because of the voice acting. But I do suspect we're going to have, a week from now, you're going to see a bunch of people saying like they should have shipped it with the original script too. And I'm of the mind that they should have. The classic mode should be the classic game. It really should. They put classic on it,
as untouched as it can be.
Exactly. Though I will say one of the things that's very funny is we now have a very strange. That mode is very weird because it's the War of the Lions script, but it's not War of the Lions,
right?
Which means it doesn't have those changes, including different new jobs and different guest characters. That game had Final Fantasy 12 guest characters because that's around when it came out.
Oh, sure.
What's his name? Is it Balthier? Is
like
in
Vaughn,
that game.
maybe?
Isn't Yeah, exactly. They're in War of the Lions. They are not in this re-release. I think this re-release has Cloud and Aerith, like the original did.
I believe that's true.
So, and I'm not sure that Balthier and Co. had some dialogue with other main, game characters in the War of the Lions release that added some backstory and some characterization. And I'm curious if that has been rewoven in some way. I don't know. I've also heard that in an interview, there's some sort of line at the end of this game that was not there originally. And I'm so curious. I haven't gotten there yet.
Don't know what the line is.
I don't know what the line is.
Okay.
But Rams's voice actor apparently turned to Matsuno and said, "Are you sure this is okay?" Which is fascinating.
All right.
So we'll find out.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So real quick, just to wrap up, like as a huge longtime fan, like big picture restoration, like is this mostly
I'm happy with
boxes?
it.
Okay.
I think it looks great. I am I'm taking screenshots to send to people to be like, look how good this game looks.
Sure.
It's never going to look like what it looked like on a CRT. But I'm also glad there is some light filter on this. I think a lot about the Xbox 360 era when these filters were first being used, that kind of like tried to fake the CRT. And at the time I was like, get that shit off. Like, I want to see the pixels the way they were meant to be seen. Blobby and ugly. And, like, that's not how they were meant to be seen. I know there's a lot of discourse around whether or not developers knew the CRT was going to change the way pixels looked, this or that. But what I do know is, I think that the initial use of filters, the very harsh use of filters, was kind of soured many of us on there being any filter, and there should be some. I think this is a pretty light touch.
Yes.
I think sometimes they're doing depth of field in some of the cutscenes that I think look great.
Yep, it looks good.
And I think the cutscenes look great. I already talked about Shakespeare, but like, I don't know if this is true for you, Brad, but every time there's a dialogue between characters on a screen, I'm like, this feels like a stage production to me.
Very much so. It kind of feeds back into that diorama feel of the setting and everything, right?
That sequence where they're like talking in the ruins and like the sisters come out and they have that sort of like it's when Ramza talks to his sister.
That is the moment that has felt the most theatrical in this entire game so far. Is he kind of exits stage right, and then she goes, Ramza, like kind of like after he's like, it feels like the most curtain is about to close moment.
100%.
It really, absolutely.
That stuff is really good. And then one last thing. I think this was probably the first time I played a game that said, at the beginning of the game, it said, hey, what you're about to hear is a history. Everybody thinks the story goes this way. Yeah. But as a historian, I've been digging through the records, and I'm going to tell you the story that nobody knows.
So that's like totally missing from the original game, right? Like when I fired it up this morning, or mostly missing, but like there's specifically a reference to there's another figure who doesn't appear in the historical record. Kind of thing.
That is right.
Yeah.
But the framing is still there of like a guy who says, my name is such and such, such and such. I forget what his name is, which is bad of me. But and I think even that was always really cool. Yeah. And now the sort of very clear, like, we're going to tell you this, the true story of Ramza, which was it's very close to the Word Lion script. I compared those very closely. But yeah, I think that's great. And I think that I'm excited for people to be able to play this. Yeah. I know it's a very busy season. If you like tactical RPGs and you have not played Final Fantasy Tactics, play this game.
Or even if you don't like tactical RPGs, and you're like curious about the genre, like there are a lot of very good games out and coming out right now, but I'm like shocked how much, like I kind of thought like, oh, I'll play this for the podcast. Like I like Final Fantasy. I need some historical perspective on this. Like I'm shocked how much like this is the thing I want to go play right now. It's $50. It's out on September 30th. Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. Again, that's how the voice actors say it. So I guess I'm going
to. I think you're good.
No reason not to think it.
I'm going to run with that.
And this is $50. Is that right? Is that what they're selling this for?
Or there is a special edition for $60 that has like a bunch of items and stuff in it.
You don't need those.
Which
items.
That's what I have, but I have
Maybe
not.
You don't.
I have not redeemed any of those items yet. Okay. It feels wrong.
Yeah. It does feel wrong. I don't know if you are having a hard time with stuff. Go ahead and use the items. Go ahead, drop the difficulty down. Love a game on the merits that you want to love it by. I'm not I know we're about to talk about a game that is built on the back of difficulty. But you know,
a form of it.
Let's just get into baby steps. Baby steps is also like we streamed it the other day, and I haven't played it since then. And like again, enjoying Yotei quite a bit. Tactics rules. Also, really want to go play baby steps.
It's good.
My game of the year so far.
Really?
I mean, granted, I have not beaten it, so there's a chance something will supplant it. I'm not making bold claims right now, but I will say right now it's my favorite thing I've played so far this year.
It's fucking rad. It's like,
can I start with the most important question? We're all playing with the nudity on.
Yes, but I haven't seen any. But I only played it for an hour on the stream, so I have not gotten to any nudity yet. But absolutely,
there's some nudity.
Although we had the moment on the stream. I mean, there's like, is Twitch going to care, or the algorithm's going to care?
Yeah.
B, I had the moment though of like, is visually censored nudity funnier in the way that like beeping over swears is funnier?
Sure.
I'm not actually.
It really just depends on the delivery.
I'm really not sure actually, but anyway.
But in this case, this is Bennett Foddy, Maxi Bach, Gabe Cazillo. Bach and Cazillo made Ape Out most recently. Bennett Foddy, we know what he does. He tortures people for fun and profit in very fun ways.
Bennett Foddy's, I guess, Getting Over It is the most recent one, right? I mean, Quap is still the go-to.
Is the classic.
And shout-outs really quick to my friends over at the NYU Game Center. Bennett Foddy teaches there. Ape Out, the two designers on Ape Out went through that system. I believe both of them did. And so, like, very fun to have a hometown game hit the way this is hitting.
Well, Maxi actually used to work at Harmonix with me back in the day.
Oh, that's true. Okay, right. Yeah. Sure. Because that Ape Out, that's the music part of Ape Out, right?
Yeah, like sort of like the jazz AI rhythm thing that they were doing before. And here, there is a little bit of that dynamic soundtrack, though it's mostly nature sounds and weird fart noises.
I feel like I'm being tortured by them. Not positive torture.
Yeah, like you are being tormented, but it's part and parcel with the way the game is generally tormenting you, which is that this guy can't walk good.
Yeah, like I feel like the log line for this is simply like take the much more simple types of punishing movement games that Bennett Foddy makes and make a 3D open world out of it.
Yes. Right? And also maybe just a touch less punishing than some of the other games tend to be. Like, I have found there is difficulty here, but generally speaking, when you get into a good rhythm, it's actually pretty, not easy, but like there's a flow state you can lock into where you can get around even when there's obstacles in your way. It's not impossible.
Walking on dirt or walking on rock or even grass, as long as it's pretty flat, not a big deal.
And not caked in slime.
And not mud. Yeah, mud and slime will fuck you up, man.
Not so great.
But this is a game where we should mention, like, you have independent control of each foot on the triggers, and if you if you just push the stick to try to move forward, you're just going to fall flat on your face. Like you have to combine.
That's literally the first tutorial command is just lean forward, see what happens.
Right, like you basically have to combine like stick movements with the triggers to smoothly walk, stay on your feet, ambulate, whatever. Can you even play this with a mouse and keyboard? I guess you can.
You can. I didn't try it though. I'm very curious if it's forward motion. I don't know. I haven't tried it.
Yeah. I'm sure that's doable, but anyway, like I mean, the mechanics stuff is very satisfying as you get good at it, but it's actually like the, I don't know, world building, the sense of humor, the performances, the editing on the interactions between the characters that has really like this could be just a fun mechanics game, but it's genuinely extremely funny and like very well written and put together on top of that from what I've seen.
So if you don't know, the main character is a not quite middle-aged. I would say he looks like he's in his late 20s, early 30s.
He's 35. I think his parents say he's 35 in the opening very quietly.
Lives at home, lives in the basement, doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot. And literally the opening cutscene is just them arguing about him sitting down after having watched apparently a lot of One Piece, and then somehow getting warped into the zone. And that's it. He doesn't know why he's there. Every time someone tries to explain it to him, his social anxiety gets the better of him, and he just sort of like gets out of that conversation before anything is learned, and he just has to step his way to wherever.
He's trying to piss. He's trying to find a bathroom is what he's trying to find. And let me tell you, I found the little porta potty. It didn't go great. It didn't go.
Oh, okay.
It didn't go great.
How far in is that? Because I got up to the campfire, and then I realized I never relieved myself, and then I was kind of on to the next chunk.
It is in that second chunk.
Okay. I'm a good way through that second chunk.
Yes.
So does it, I mean, maybe without giving away too much about the story, like, does it open up in a way that, like, the whole world is at your disposal, or is it more kind of segmented where it's like, okay, because I got past the first, like, campfire dream sequence, whatever. Is it like closing parts of the world off behind you, or?
So I have a theory about what's happening there now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I missed something in that first zone.
I think we probably all did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. Totally. in that second zone, there is a bit where you can look through a viewfinder.
Yeah, I saw
at the
that.
top of like a at the top of like a watchtower, and that zooms in on like a weird doll in the distance. I walked to that doll. It's kind of like a little out of the way, and on that doll is a crown, like a toy, like a dress up crown, costume crown, and you can put it on. And it is not permanently on. It will fall off if you fall hard enough.
Any and all hats will fall if you do a pratfall.
Did you complete? So I know there's a hat in the first zone.
Yeah,
did you complete the level with the hat on?
I did.
Did something happen with that?
No, the hat was just gone when I woke up.
Interesting.
According to Twitch chat, that dream, that weird like.
Oh, okay.
I started to call it 8-bit. It's more primitive than 8-bit. It's like a 2600 style like little mini game you play as a dream sequence. Twitch chat was saying that only happens if you're wearing that hat.
Interesting. Okay.
That's what happens with the crown too. You get the crown, and you can in the crown one, you can kind of see the crown in the background for a moment, almost like faded in the back as the kind of pre-8-bit style. It looks like a ColecoVision or a, you know what I mean, like it's an Atari game, a 2600 game or something. And that for the crown at least started giving some narrative backstory for the character, which was interesting.
Definitely does too if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've not seen that, so I should go back. But my thought is you need to have the hat by the time you get to the campfire for each level. So I don't think I can go back and get the level 1 hat and cash that in.
No,
because
I don't think
I will have a different hat now for the third level.
Sure.
Though it is interesting because it does seem like in that first area there are other things they are at least highlighting in the like there's a cup, there's like a little fucking like Buddha statue or a cat statue or something on top of a rock, though I have no idea how the hell you're supposed to get that. It seems like there are items that you can, if you just want to wander, there is stuff around. I don't know how like important it is, but I feel like that's also kind of part of the point of the game is how much are you willing to do to get this shit that might not even matter.
Even in the first
knock
hour.
over all the wine bottles or knock over the cans. Sometimes I'm like, is there a way for me to pick up and throw stuff? Because it looks like there's like a target I'm trying to aim for or something. Not as far as I can tell, actually.
Not so far, yeah.
Even in like the first hour, I really enjoyed the mental calculation that kicks in every time you see something in the distance, because it is that open world thing. If you see it, you can go there, but then you immediately realize how much work it's going to be to get even when you get pretty good at executing on it. It's still like, this is still going to require a fair amount of intense concentration just to get up this slope to that thing. Yeah. Even if I know I can do it, like I really got to lock in for this, and I'm not sure I've got it in me right now.
Have you all eaten the pear? Did you all get the pear?
No.
There's a part in, I think this is in the second map. It must be. Like the second after the first campfire. It's the same map, but where there's like off to the right, there's like a little hill up into like a little cave, and then around the front of it is a tree limb, like a dead tree limb with a glow. It's glowing in the distance, and that's where I learned you could sidestep, and you don't have to just walk forward and back. You can sidle around very thin things.
Okay.
Like getting through that was the thing that I think taught me patience and how firm a foot you can hold a foot out forever. If your left foot is stable, you can really be careful with your right foot placement and vice versa. You don't have to always be moving really quick. You can really, zero in on what you want to do. And that challenge, which I think is the joy of this entire mechanic, right, is like, I'm getting better at the thing in the way that you get better at Rock Band and the way that you get better at, any of these things that are like really skill driven.
You find the techniques.
You find the techniques.
And I think you just explained to me how it is I'm going to sidle up that rock that did not look like I could put steps in front of me. That seems like I'm going to go belly first to that rock and I'm going to sidle my way around.
There's something there's something almost mechanical when you realize how, like, okay, you don't have to treat, now Austin, you posted this on Blue Sky in a way that I think you've very much keyed into this. Like, it's not like a human walking. Like, you're not always moving forward. Like you said, you can keep the foot in the air as long as you want. Yeah. You can walk like sideways as well as forward. Like it's almost like driving some kind of bipedal machine at some point rather than working with an actual human's locomotion.
It's so funny because it's like on one hand, I think you're right, but I also think that it's like this is just stuff we're all always doing, or most of us are always doing all the time. I say most of us because I think one of the interesting things for me about this game and about the genre of game has always been like it's comedy about bodies. It's comedy about bodies that don't work right, quote unquote, which always leads you into conversations about differently abled bodies, disability, etc. And I think that this game, I don't know if this is intentional. I can't speak to the mind of its creators, but I think it like anticipates that potential reading, which is ha ha ha, look, this guy doesn't know how to walk right, and actually says, well, there's another metaphor happening here. This is about someone who like refuses to take help from people, who it's a failure to launch story. It's about a guy who can't get his life together, not because he's differently abled, but because he's a piece of shit. Because people keep saying, hey, did you know that there are tools to help you? We can give you a grappling hook. We can give you a map. I'm happy to walk with you, you know, and refuses to take part in that because he thinks he's too good for it, which of course also leads into like difficulty discourse in games. It's very funny to make a game that doesn't have difficulty options, but is filled with a character who is like, get good about himself, you know? It's funny.
There's another angle to that, which is that it's not just that he thinks he's too good for it. It's that I get the impression he is terrified of anyone thinking he is not good enough at this. Like, it's less
he's
about...
not pompous, he's afraid.
He's deeply afraid, and I think that's where his social anxiety kind of manifests, and it's done in a way, look, it's funny, but it's not just dunking on this dude over and over again.
Sad.
It's portraying him in a way where people are really trying to help him in fairly friendly ways, and even when they are fucking with him, it's mostly because of things he is saying to them, and not just looking at the guy going, oh, look at you, you know?
Yes. Yeah, he, you know, over and over again, someone will... There's a point at which you can get stuck in a pit, and a guy is like,
yes, the pit one is great.
Hey, I do you need a ladder? I can get you a ladder. And he's like, no, I'm good. I want to be down here. I'm practicing.
I'm just here to inspect the pit. It's my job. It's not a very good pit.
That's right. But and he's like, well, I'm going to get a ladder. He's like, yeah, other people are going to need the ladder. I'm not going to need a ladder. But yeah, that seems like the right... Actually, it seems like you should probably put that a little bit forward. And it's like, oh, you are like so worried about seeming like you need any help in this life. And it's hard. It's hard to climb the mountain, man. Maybe you don't want the grappling hook, but you could take the map.
Yeah, just take the map. It looks like a pretty good map.
It looks like a pretty good map.
This was hilarious to me, and I asked Alex this on the stream. When the guy's offering you the map, they go out of their way to pop a mini-map UI element onto the screen.
Yes, with a horse sound.
And I had to immediately ask myself, did they even build a mini-map system for this game because I'm going to get a map later, or did they do that purely for that one joke?
I think they did it for the one joke. That's what I think.
But what if you beat the game and you get a map?
I mean,
but there's like
either way, it's very funny.
There's these other little things in there too. Like, and I don't really know how much meaning to assign to them, but like when you're in the pit, before that, I was wandering around in a barn that's like right next to the pit, and the barn doesn't really have anything in it except this baby duck that just starts following you around once it sees you and you kind of get connected to it. So once I fell out of the pit, I was like trying to climb up the ladder, and I was like, oh, is the duck going to follow me? I don't know what's happening. And then I got out of the pit, and eventually the duck just sort of like, you know, flew in behind me, and now it's just following me everywhere, which I assume will end probably by the time I get to the next campfire or something.
I lost it. Tell me what happens if you get there with the duck.
I'd love to know. Man. It just feels like there's probably a metaphor there for, you know, baby bird learning to fly and all of that, but also at the same time, I feel like there's something probably attached to that.
Yeah. Can I say something else very important about this game? My man's got a fat ass.
Yeah, caked up.
Caked up on a Thursday afternoon. It is. There are times.
It is a full moon.
It is a full moon. It is a full moon. There are times that I'm like, this game feels very interested in. Again, there is a nudity filter. It's not about his ass. As far as I can tell, maybe later his ass will just come out.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
It isn't one of those flap onesies. Like, it isn't like an old cartoon.
The effect is greatly enhanced by his choice of attire, because he's in like long johns, basically, or this kind of like pajama onesie thing.
God, it's so funny. But yeah, there are times where I feel like this game is like playing with expectations of male bodies and like all that stuff. And it's like, meanwhile, I'm falling down the hill over and over again.
And there's no fall damage, so you can fall as much as you want.
Yeah. I cannot emphasize enough just how much this game understands that a guy falling down is always funny. And especially with the way they have done the ragdolling and sort of the animation stuff around him falling down, sliding down things, the sounds he makes while it's happening.
The sounds he makes.
They know. They know what they are doing.
Not here again, he says. Oh,
fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to give it up for the presentation of the cutscenes, specifically the interaction of the characters. This game does characters talking over each other better than I think I have ever heard in a video game before. And I don't know if they had actors in the same room with each other. It feels like they must have.
It feels like they did. If they didn't,
B, like it feels like a lot of games on a technical level are not really engineered to mix voice lines very well. But this very much feels like two characters in some kind of improvisational comedy setting playing off of each other in a way that I feel like you don't get in games very much.
Totally. Yeah. Really, really fun affect. Fadi is Australian.
A lot of the voice acting sounds very New Zealander to me.
Yeah. And I think that there's like some of that comedy mode happening here that's really good.
It's the kind of thing that, like, you know, I think a lot of people sort of assign to like the Taika Waititi sort of thing, that kind of like, you know, rambling goofiness. But I think here it's done in a way that doesn't feel like they are just aping that style. Like it's its own version of that.
The way he says uwu to say goodbye because he's misheard the traditional farewell of the area is very funny. It's great. It's really fun. I'm so curious where it's going to go. I did not expect to be compelled narratively by baby steps.
I assumed they had something up their sleeve because, I mean, from the initial pitch, it's like, okay, yes, there's the quappiness of it, but like the way they were setting it up made it feel like they were scratching, and especially with the way getting over it is so much more about, you know, kind of like the like Fadi narrating over it and kind of like the instructive quality of it all. That, like, I felt like they had to be doing something else, and they very much are.
Yeah.
It's it's really impressive. It's only $20. Baby Steps is out now. I believe it's PC and PS5 only for now.
Currently, yes.
$20.
Oh, that's the other thing I want to say is, like, it feels like you said PS5, so I thought about this, was like, this is a game built around analog triggers. No one's doing enough with analog triggers.
Yep. Oh, dude,
they're having some fun with that.
We talked about that on the stream. It felt like my DualSense was about to fly apart at the seams playing that game. Like, they are punishing the motors and the triggers in that controller in a way I have never felt before.
Yeah,
which feels intentional.
I love it. Yes, absolutely.
For sure. All right, that's Baby Steps out now. It's pretty impressive, as are the last two games. Like, there's a lot of good games coming out right now.
No, I think we are in the stretch right now. Like, between now and the end of October, it is a fucking murderer's row.
Yeah. A lot going on. So we're going to take another quick break here, cool our jets for a second, and come back and talk about the stuff Alex saw at that Nintendo event and dive into the news. We'll see you in a minute. All right, we're back, but it is not time for the news yet because we've got so many damn video games to talk about this week that our traditional post-second break news slot will have to wait because, Alex, you went to this Nintendo event in New York City, the city of Nintendo events now.
Indeed.
Because that's where they all are these days.
Especially when it comes to holiday guide stuff, that is where they do them.
That's right.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Nintendo's got games coming out for the holiday, and they want you to know about them. Games such as Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
Because since the last time, that we did one of these podcasts, they have announced that's coming out December 4th.
Yes.
You played it?
I did. So all the demos I played at this Nintendo thing were fairly short. This was mostly for mainstream press. There was definitely some games people there as well. I assume because they said, hey, you can come play Metroid Prime 4. So these were short demos. They were not particularly in-depth, but I did put hands on Metroid Prime 4. I did put hands on that Kirby Air Riders. I did put hands on Mario Galaxy.
All right. Let's talk about Metroid Prime 4 first. Did you ride a motorcycle?
No, that was not in the demo. The demo, I think, is
weird.
The opening battle from the game. If I'm interpreting what they showed me correctly, it feels very much like the moment Samus kind of arrives on whatever is going on in that game, and then it's just like, okay, go to work.
How was it? Are you a Metroid Prime person?
So 1 is the only one I've ever finished. I know I played a bunch of 2. I have no idea if I ever played 3 or not. I cannot remember for the life of me. So I told this to the demoer. I was like, look, I have some experience. It's been some time. I did not have much trouble getting into it. The part that they chose was the part where they start showing you, here's how you turn into a ball. Here's where you do this and all that.
Okay.
They give you a first boss fight and all that kind of stuff. So, and again, this is like 10, 15 minutes of gameplay total. But the main thing they wanted to show off, though, was the mouse mode, aiming and all of that.
That was my big question, was if they gave you control options, if they recommended one over the other.
So there were no pro controllers for this. It was either just play as the Joy-Cons or try the mouse mode with the Joy-Cons. That was kind of it. And initially I was just doing hey, I'm holding up the IR light and aiming that way, which sometimes felt like a little bit swimmy, but I couldn't tell how much of that was like interference in the room versus like problems with the control. Because I didn't have a hard time hitting anything. It just felt a little bit swimmy in a way that felt like maybe something was interrupting the IR light somewhere around,
Interesting.
But the mouse mode, so when I switched over to that, it literally not like I had a table in front. There wasn't really a table in front of me. I was using the arm of my chair that I was sitting in to do it.
That is the way to do it, because they should, or like on your knee, right? Like they should replicate the conditions most people are going to play it in their house.
It worked pretty okay from what I could tell. I still had a little bit of that swimminess, but it did not feel like it. Like I said, nothing. At no point did I feel like I could not control the game properly using either method. And it seemed like it was pretty seamless. Like I just turned the thing over, just started doing it, and it just seemed like it was doing it. So
yeah,
did it seem like you'd want to play the game that way if you had a Pro controller?
I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, I think as soon as I try all the different methods in front of me, I will have a more firm, feeling on that. I tend to lean toward Pro controller in all circumstances. So probably I would end up that way, but it's not because I think this isn't good or anything. It just didn't, it's not necessarily the way I want to play these games. The main thing I took away from that Metroid demo, though, that game looks real nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's exciting.
I know people were kvetching about what the motorcycle stuff looked like, and none of that was in the demo.
Okay.
But the first person shooting, exploring, doing the Metroid stuff,
scanning, all of the stuff
looked very nice. They were running it, I believe, in... So it has multiple visual modes, as you can imagine. I think the one they were showing was the non-super high def, but running in 120 frames version. And that did look incredibly sharp. Even with the lower resolution, like it just looked very good in motion that way.
Great. It's exciting.
Sounds great.
The control stuff, specifically the mouse stuff, like the Prime games are so lock-on focused. Like aiming, free aiming was never really a big part of them in my mind. So, like, I wonder...
I think that the thing that comes to mind for me, and I have not played these games. Metroid is like a huge blind spot for me. I only just played Super Metroid in like 2021 or something for the first time. 2020, right before I left Waypoint, we did a stream series of me playing.
Yes,
I know.
Right. I watched part of that.
I was like, as a kid, I was afraid of those games. They were so scary to me.
Dude.
And I was like, playing Resident Evil just fine, but for whatever reason, just something about the alienness of those worlds. And then I didn't have a GameCube, so
like going to my cousin's house, playing Metroid 1, playing through that game, but I was afraid to go into Torian. Like when he was like, we were like, let's go finish the game. Like, there's fucking Metroids down there. Did you see it?
Metroids down there. It's scary,
you see the way those things move? Like, I don't want to be in there.
It's fucking crazy.
It was terrifying.
That's right.
It genuinely was.
But my understanding of the Prime series is a big part of it is looking around the environment and looking for stuff to scan. Going the scanner visor mode and stuff like that. I can imagine the mouse being good for that, and even just like looking at stuff, because it does look like a pretty game.
Yeah, I guess having free aim could still be useful or pleasant, even if you're locking on to aim at stuff.
I'm mostly just excited for this game to come out.
Yes.
Finally.
Yep. So we can stop talking about it. Absolutely.
Kind of, yes. I mean, I want to play it, but also yes.
Yeah, I want to play it.
I feel like just from the slice they showed, it does feel like, okay, no, here's your next Metroid Prime.
Right.
Like, it doesn't feel like a weird divergence. It doesn't feel like, it's all that time in development has somehow resulted in something that feels misshapen or not like the thing you would expect it to be. Whatever they're doing with the biking stuff, I don't know. But like, I turn into a ball. I shot some fucking aliens. Like, I have the big suit. What more do you want?
Like,
really?
Like I didn't want to actually stoop to calling this a proof of life that you played this, but like it is sort of in that ballpark.
Well, especially now that it has a date. I feel like the proof of lives are now done.
Yep.
What is the date again? I know someone just said it, but I forgot.
First week of December, I believe.
December 4th.
Okay. End of the year. Okay.
Yep. Less than 3 months now.
Did not feel like it was coming in hot. It wasn't like, didn't see anything too janky in it.
Cool. Well, that game's $10 more. I looked it up. It's 70 on Switch 2 and 60 on Switch 1.
I think none of those video modes are available on Switch 1 for perhaps obvious reasons.
Definitely not.
That makes sense.
In fact, I will be curious to see how this performs on a Switch 1, but we'll find out soon. Kirby Air Riders.
All right. Let me level with you. I didn't know people cared about Kirby Air Riders, like, at all. Like, not in a dismissive, oh, fuck that game kind of way, but like, literally, I don't know anyone who's ever talked to me about it, ever, for any reason. I understand some people very much like that GameCube game and have some real affection for it. That's great. That's awesome. I have none of it. I don't know anything about it. When people started talking like, oh my God, they're making a new Kirby Air Riders, I'm like, what? Huh? Wait, Sakurai's getting a whole fucking presentation? Like, what are we doing here?
48-minute long, like, Smash style deep dive into it. I think that video is great, by the way. People who have not watched that video, they should go watch it. It's very fun.
The man's got pull at Nintendo.
He does.
I watched it before I went because I didn't know what the fuck that thing was, really. And I was like, Sakurai can tell me, and he did. He did it, I think, in fairly meaningful terms. But yeah, it's just like, I felt like I got Mandela affected, like into a world where people suddenly cared about that game in a way that I had never perceived before. Anyway, it's all right.
Yeah, he didn't hit. How's it? I mean, in that video, Sakurai is like, I know what you're thinking. Mario Kart exists.
Yeah.
Why would we also make this?
Say that?
It's something very similar to that.
It's in that tone.
It's in that tone. He's like, I know. Isn't this just the same as Mario Kart?
It's not.
It's not. And it seems like there's some interesting stuff going on there. But I am curious, Alex. Do you feel like you need another? I guess it's not a kart racer technically, but an arcade racer of this sort in your life.
It's an interesting construction. So the things you are riding in that game are always moving. And the thing you are doing is tilting, jumping off them at times, sometimes to get another one, or using them to like doing commands to ram into other people. Like that is kind of the crux of the control. Now, a lot of what I ended up playing was not just a straight up race mode. It is this open world environment. There was a multiplayer thing. It's like there were 4 of us, and then there was like 12 bots, because I think they're all like 16 technically player matches or something like that. And a lot of it was just running around, collecting power-ups, ramming into each other, doing dumb bullshit before these events happen. And then you go into these battle and race events kind of off the back of all that. I don't know if that's the main mode or if that is just like one of the main multiplayer things, and that there's also just like a regular like course circuit thing for single player or anything like that. They didn't really show that here. But the main thing is you are constantly looking for other machines to jump on. You are always moving around. So you were just trying to figure out, do I drift here? Do I jump here? That kind of thing. And it's a little hectic in a way that I think is very much intentional. But for someone who, again, had no perception of what this thing was or what I was even supposed to be doing in a lot of this, it kind of felt like I had just been dropped into Chaos Land and I was just hoping for the fucking best.
So did you have any throttle control of the vehicle at all? Like you said, it's always moving.
Not really. There's a drifting mechanic, which does kind of slow you, I think, a little bit as you're going around corners, but it's not really slowing down. I think the jumping off is kind of the thing you do if you just, you want to stop yourself or get onto another thing.
Yeah, I found the exact thing that he says is like, classic, again, almost like a Smash Brothers video where it's like, overview, what is Kirby Air Ride? And he says like, I know that many of you are asking yourself if it's basically Mario Kart. And he says as if to say like, no, it isn't. He says, you race and battle with familiar characters around courses with different features, or so they say. So yeah, it's okay, it's basically Mario Kart. And they were apparently Nintendo said to him like, are you sure you want to do this? And he said, yes, I do, because the appeal is different. And it's the thing that you just said, actually, Alex, which is like, this is not a game about like, how fast do I take this turn? Do I slow things down? Do I get the coins to speed up? It is about drifting. It's about the different rider vehicles, the different hover vehicles, because some of them have different floatiness in the air, and there's like a real
mechanics to them.
Right, exactly. And the different riders all have different attacks and stuff built in.
Yes.
Sounds like there's almost maybe a strategic quality to this a little bit, maybe.
Kind of. Look, here's what I'll say, and this is a very lazy comparison I'm going to make right here, but Sakurai's top of mind, so I'm just going to do it. It is to Mario Kart, I think, a little bit what Smash Brothers is to regular fighting games. In that
makes sense.
There are some things in there that are very similar, but the goals are different and the structure is different.
So it's a platform racer.
Kind of, but not really, because again, there's no platforming. It's more just like it's a chaos racer is how I would describe it.
That actually sounds kind of interesting, like more so than if you had just told me, hey, this is just another racer of some sorts. Like this actually sounds like there's enough differentiating it.
Yeah, I like the idea of picking a character because I like the moves they do.
Right.
Yes.
Which is not why you pick a character in Mario Kart. You pick it because like you kind of intuit that they feel a little differently, and the stats suggest that maybe they feel, you know what I mean? Or a different cart, I guess, actually, in the modern Mario Karts. I want to pick King Dedede because he has a big hammer that he hits people with. That's fun. You know?
Yeah. I found, the different abilities are pretty different. I only play like 2 or 3 different racers, but they all seemed like they had very different approaches as far as like what their specials were and all of that. I think the thing is, yes, it is different enough that it does not just feel like Mario Kart. Absolutely. I still might have given this one like a year of just like
wild.
buffer.
Yeah, dude.
Because it's just similar enough,
It's,
when is this out?
November 20th, so
That's wild.
less than 6 months after Mario Kart.
Like not even 6 months.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I would have given it a year.
Look, man,
But they also
Sakurai
need
does what Sakurai
games.
wants.
They want games that are done for that thing.
Yes, like hey, it's a Switch 2 exclusive game. Like
I guess so.
they need a
For the
third one of
holiday.
those,
Yeah.
right?
And Metroid doesn't come out for a couple of weeks after
And-
that,
and-
so
and
they got
that's
to
not-
get something on there.
And that's not even exclusive. That's a Switch 1 game as well. So
Yeah.
that
Sure,
is-
that makes sense.
that is November 20th. Kirby Air Riders. It's going to be
Is Air Riders
$70.
exclusive?
Yes, it is a Switch 2
Okay,
only game.
I see. That makes sense.
Yep. So I guess it's like the one for the rest of the year. Besides Metroid.
I want to be, and just to close this out, I want to be clear to all you Kirby Air Rider fans out there. I'm happy for you. I am, like, legitimately. I'm glad that this is a thing you are excited about. I just feel like you are from a different universe, and I don't know why you're here.
Maybe we've moved into their universe, Alex.
Yep.
That's worse. I don't like that. I want to go home.
But it would explain a lot of things about the present reality.
Yeah.
It's the universe where Sylvester Stallone was in Terminator,
Right.
like in Last Action Hero.
Hell of an actor.
Okay, lastly here, you saw the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 ports to the Switch.
I should also say I did play the Pokemon Legends ZA, AZ, whatever that thing is. I want to tell you my perspective on that thing is less than useful to anyone, so
Okay,
I'm not going to bother,
fair.
other than it's a video game you can play.
Great.
Mario Galaxy, though, I reviewed that first game. That was one of the last reviews I think I ever did for GameSpot, and I played the shit out of 2 as well. And they have made Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 go on the Switch too, and they look pretty nice. That's about the crux of what I can say about them. They have polished them up a little bit. It is not overwhelming how nice
Okay.
they look, but they do look nice.
So, first of all, these are so this is Switch 1 as well. I was just pulling up the eShop to confirm here. So these do run on Switch 1 or 2. My biggest question is, so Galaxy actually came out as part of that 3D All-Stars. Do you remember that came out?
Yes, I do remember that.
5 years ago? It feels like an early pandemic game.
And it was one of those things where like they pulled down at a certain point, right?
In fact, it was not one of those things. It was the only thing like that.
Yeah.
It's like the one time, with the exception of something like Mario 35 that they take offline.
Right.
I think that's the one time limited game they have ever done. Like
People
3D,
didn't like that very much, so I kind of understand maybe why they haven't gone back to the well on that.
yeah, like for
Oh,
people
was
who
there something wrong with it?
no,
or was there...
no, they
It was
announced
a
it.
timed thing.
Like they announced
That's
it
wild.
when they put it out. It was called Super Mario 3D All Stars. It was a take on Mario All Stars from the SNES, right? Same
Right,
concept.
I see.
Same concept. It was Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy 1 for the Switch. But when it came out, they straight up said out of the gate, hey, this is only going to be on sale for like 6 months, so buy it now. And
Okay, on sale for 6 months, but once it's in your library, it's
Yeah.
in your
Yeah,
library.
yeah,
It wasn't
didn't
like
go away,
tied to
but they
okay,
stopped
okay.
selling it.
yeah, if you
Yeah.
have it, you have it, even if it's digital. But it's
Gotcha.
been years
Yes, yes,
since
yes.
you could buy that thing.
Yeah.
So
Disney Vault type maneuver.
totally. So like, this is now going to be the only way to get Galaxy 1 on
a Switch.
on a Switch. But did they say if there's any difference between this version of Galaxy 1 and the one in 3D All Stars?
They didn't really clarify that. I get the impression that they barely remember they even did that. So,
Sure.
like, that didn't even come up in the course of our conversation, the idea that Galaxy 1 was already kind of out there.
Okay.
I think what they have done here is they've just polished up the game, like the visuals, and kind of just made it look a little nicer. I think it has HDR support if you're on Switch 2 and all of that. But other than that, like it really is just those games. It's not a remake. It's not even really a reboot. It's just kind of like an HD update of an already kind of HD game.
Okay, I'm just curious because they are selling these games piecemeal. It's $70 for both, or $40 if you just buy one of them. So I'm just kind of wondering if you already have 3D All Stars, which again is a limited number of people. If you could just get 2 and be fine, but
Probably.
Yeah.
But again, I imagine they've done at least a visual polish pass on this compared to that version.
that's possible.
But is that worth $40 to you? That's ultimately that's up to you.
Yeah, well, the digital foundries of the world will answer that question. But
Yeah.
hey, we know what Mario Galaxy is. I assume it looks good and runs fine.
Yeah, fucking great. Like, still one of the greatest, both of those, like, greatest 3D platformers of all time in the conversation, absolutely. And I immediately kind of locked back into, like, oh, yeah, no, I remember how to play this. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Switch games.
They also had They also had Hades 2 there, which I did not play because I've already played a bunch of that early access and all of that. But I did at least get to say hey to Darren and Logan, who were out for the event.
Great.
That game's out.
Yeah.
Right?
Speaking of news that broke since we recorded this podcast last, Hades 2 got a date.
Mm-hmm.
Like 3 weeks after Silksong came out.
It's here.
Apologies to all other September games, I guess.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, wait, sorry, it's not out. When is it actually? It's the 20th.
The embargo
25th.
was today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The embargo today,
just lifted.
release is tomorrow. Yeah.
So by the time this podcast goes up, Hades 2 will be out, which is nuts.
Man.
Yeah, video games. There's a lot of them.
You know what they should make next to the thing for just me? Pyre 2. They should make another Pyre
yes, they
game.
should. No, that's for me too.
All right,
I still think that's their best game.
Me too.
Yes.
You're
the other one.
We're from the universe where Kirby Air Riders was
Yes.
big, and Pyre is the best game they've ever
Yes.
made. That
Finally.
game's great. That game's great.
I knew I was friends with you for a reason.
That's right.
I should have played more Pyre. I did
Oh,
not.
dude,
I don't
you
think I
would
gave Pyre
love
its due.
You would love the narrative stuff happening in Pyre. I really think it is like the world building and the character stuff is all really, really good. And there's like narrative structure stuff that I think is some of their most ambitious, strangest, most like the biggest swings they've done in terms of having a plot that shifts and changes based on decisions you make. It's great.
And the basketball's good.
And the basketball's good.
Right?
Yeah.
Fantasy basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy basketball.
It's good
Fantasy
shit.
basketball in a world where reading is illegal.
Yeah. No, that's just our universe.
Magical. That's
just
you're
our
right.
universe.
That is our universe. Yeah.
Yep, we're back in our
Oh, I'm
universe.
glad DraftKings didn't get a hold of Pyre or the Pyre universe. I'm glad there's no.
Not yet.
Oh man.
Not yet, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the
Kevin
over-under?
Hart Pyre commercials are going to be unbearable.
Ugh. The one thing they didn't have there was the Virtual Boy, I will say.
I was going to say real quick before we move on, no sign of the Virtual Boy peripherals, huh?
No, but that thing isn't
not big on the holiday roadmap for Nintendo.
Well, I don't think that's out this year, is it?
Really?
I don't know.
I don't know if they've set a specific date for that yet. If they have, I don't know if that's a holiday thing. I think that might be an early next year thing. I'm not sure. But either way, it wasn't there, and I assume that everything that was there was part of their holiday lineup.
February 17th.
Oh, that's
next
right.
year.
Yes,
that's why it wasn't there then.
Yep.
This is so funny.
Who knows if you'll be able to get that thing by holiday of next year, because this also sounds kind of limited. It's another one of those deals where you have to be an online member to even buy it.
Right.
You have
yes.
to laugh. You just have to laugh at that whole thing. Like, what else can you do? What else can you say to the idea of we are charging you $100 to play these Virtual Boy games on a fucking Switch too?
Like that direct was at 6 a.m. here, and I happened to wake up at like 5 that day, so I was just sitting here watching the direct with people on our Discord at 6, and like talk about being in another dimension. Like when that thing appeared on the screen, like every successive beat of that announcement was more insane. Like they're putting Virtual Boy games on the Switch. They're making a peripheral that is a Virtual Boy to put your Switch into.
So funny.
It's $100.
It's $100. If you want to play one of Nintendo's greatest failures in 2025, give us $100 to make that failure seem less so.
Don't get me wrong. Like I salute this. Like this is amazing.
Me too.
It's insane.
It's dumb as shit, but
Also,
I can't be mad at it.
There is a $25 cardboard version of the device to play the games with.
Labo returns.
To be fair,
Labo returns. The real thing here is, I wish they would sell me the Virtual Boy peripheral and every game. I guess they're releasing the games just on the online thing, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I don't have to buy them.
No, it's a channel like all the other classic game channels.
That might get
hope,
me.
I hope it's all of them because there aren't that many. I don't know.
No,
off the-
many.
I think there's
They
like
listed at least 20 games, and I'm pretty sure that's all.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think there are fewer than 20 Virtual Boy games. Period.
Yeah.
So hopefully if they're selling $100 peripheral, they had better put all of them on there.
I wish it was. I wish it wasn't tied to their online. I wish they just permanently added them to my library, so that if I stopped subscribing, I could continue to play Vertical Force or Mario Clash.
Yeah.
Yep, extreme same.
Okay.
You know.
Hey, have you heard about recurring subscription revenue?
I hear it's big these days. How funny is it going to be, though, if we get to February and there are more Virtual Boy games available for the system than there are GameCube games by then? The thing they were big is like big classic touting thing. Look at this. We're bringing GameCube to the system. There's 3 of them.
I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think that will happen.
What are the
3!
other GameCube games that people are like itching for?
I
I'm
don't
not a
know.
GameCube person.
Name a game.
I can't. I wasn't.
Animal Crossing.
Oh, that'd be great.
Original flavor.
Animal Crossing. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, like the first. Wait, is Luigi's Mansion on there? One? It's not.
Yeah,
is it?
You're saying it's not on the?
I don't think it is.
No,
there's only like 5 games right now. It's Soul Calibur 2, isn't it?
Yeah, Soul Calibur 2. It is F-Zero GX.
Right. Wind Waker.
Yeah, Wind Waker, and they added one other one recently, I think.
Okay. I mean, there's
so I guess
GameCube
technically
games.
it's like 4.
They should release the Odama peripheral.
Sure.
Yes.
Now we're talking.
There's so many dumb peripherals for that console.
Is that F-Zero GX? Did they re-release that? Was that on there?
Yeah, that's on there.
Okay.
That was one of the first ones that was up.
And Custom Robo. No, not Custom Robo. I'm thinking
Chibi Robo?
Chibi Robo?
maybe?
I think that was a recent ad, if I'm not mistaken.
I still think you're right. It's going to be more Virtual Boy games for sure. I'm looking at the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting the way they approach this whole thing.
Yes, it certainly is. Nintendo continues to be Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How about we move into some news finally? What do you say?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, previews are like a form of news.
Yeah, kind of. Sure. We used to put them on the same tab.
Yeah.
Preview articles and news stories side by side. All right, let's get into it real quick here. There's not a ton going on this week. The Tokyo Game Show is imminent. So a number of Japanese studios are having some events. I don't think the actual show has started yet, if I'm not mistaken, but a variety of game studios in Japan are kind of having their own events and announcing some stuff.
Yeah, we were recording this, in fact, 30 minutes, 40 minutes before the Sony State of Play, right?
State of Play happening today. I think, what is the new Housemarque game? Saros, I believe that's kind of the marquee thing they keep touting is like, hey, there's going to be Saros gameplay there.
Yeah, Returnal was cool.
Yeah, Returnal's all right. Let's start with Kojima Productions. I feel like there's not actually a lot of news here, and yet there's a lot I want to talk about. Do you guys remember the name of Physint?
No.
Not at all.
I extremely forgot that Kojima Productions has like a third announced franchise that I guess actually was announced like a year and a half ago.
Okay, I have to stop you there. You can't call it a franchise before even one of them has come out. You can call it a property. That's fine. I'll go with that. But
dude, they've already announced a game and a movie.
Fine, but until one of those things comes out, you can't call it a franchise yet. That's how I believe.
I guess the news here is that I was reminded that Physint exists because they put out some new key art for it. They talked about the cast, or at least some of the cast, because Kojima just puts people in his games now. They revealed the tagline.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes the feeling.
Here comes the feeling.
Here comes the feeling.
Here it comes. Okay. Here comes the feeling. Was this a... Go ahead, Alex.
I think so much about that tagline and what it will ultimately mean comes down to hearing someone say it and figuring out which word they're putting the emphasis on. Here comes the feeling. Here comes the feeling.
Here comes the feeling.
Here comes the feeling. Like any number of changes to tone could go alongside that.
Yeah. So like, I don't know how much of this is like people wish casting the art that they've put out for this and how much they've actually said this, but like this is very much being positioned as the non-copyright infringing Metal Gear successor. Like it's
even Here Comes the Feeling feels like it's referencing something Metal Gear that I can't put a finger on.
Sure. Like, if you
it's killing me.
The art, if you look at the art, I mean, they've said it's a stealth action game. Like, it very much feels like it's in that lineage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this guy looks like he should be in a prequel MGS game.
Yep, 100%.
In the shadows here.
100%. Actors they've announced, Charlie Fraser, Don Lee, and Minami Hamabe.
I don't know any of them. I'm going to be honest with you.
There are some amazing Kojima quotes out of this event where they announced the stuff, though.
Here is what it reminds me of. It reminds me of The Best Is Yet to Come.
Okay, sure.
Yes. Here comes the feeling.
Yep.
The best is yet to come.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay.
Totally. That's
5? Which is a song. Which was one of the songs on...
It was 5,
No, I think
right?
that's on the first... That's on MGS. It's on the Metal Gear Solid
you're right.
soundtrack.
You're totally right. Yes.
Yeah.
I have that soundtrack in my music library. What am I talking about?
It's a good song.
Okay. Check here. Let me just give these quotes. This is Kojima. For me, this is about the cast that they announced. For me, working with people I like helps me live longer because I can go to work and say I want to meet them.
Oh my god.
Huh.
Kojima celebrity casting is actually just a Kojima longevity project, apparently.
Me getting a job at Giant Bomb in 2015. I want to meet these people.
Yeah.
It helps you live longer.
You saw what that led to.
Yeah, listen, here we are. Here we are now.
He also said, we need to experiment with technology and there's so much more to do. But before that, I need to make OD. Just like, by the way, I got to make this. By the way, I got to make this. I got to finish making this other game I'm contractually obligated to make before we get to this.
I'd forgotten about OD because OD was also announced previously, right?
Yes, OD,
and that's like a Microsoft partnership, isn't it?
Yeah, OD is the horror game that Microsoft is, I guess, fully funding, or at least
Hunter Schafer's in it.
Yeah, Hunter Schafer and Kier are in it.
I watched the teaser for that, and I was like, these characters look. When she shows up, she looks like a Death Stranding character.
Yeah,
yes.
And that's because it's the scanner. He's putting people on the scanner.
Yeah.
And I think we might see the limit of the scanner. I don't want all games to look like Death Stranding. I like Death Stranding.
Yeah.
That's what Death Stranding looks like.
Sure.
I don't need all games to look like that. And I'm not saying all games do, but it's fine. He can have his characteristic thing, but I think there's something important about the way characters in Death Stranding look that fits Death Stranding.
Yes.
It's like a muddy, dirty game about falling down hills, much like Baby Steps. I don't need all of them to look like that. I hope that when we get Physint, it doesn't just look like Death Stranding, because that's not the one way games can look. Yeah.
I might have bad news for you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think you're right.
That feels very much like the direction this studio is going. I mean, it's just one studio, but
of course, I'm not saying all games will look this way. I just,
I think that.
Think of the difference between the way MGS 1 through 5 actually look.
Oh, sure.
They really look different from each other.
Yeah,
and
extremely.
Part of that's technological, but it is also art style, So.
Yeah. The OD trailer looked pretty good. I thought it feels very much in the style of PT.
Yeah.
To me, down to the flooring, down to the paneling in the floor.
I'm going to give him this one.
Yeah.
He didn't get to make that game, and I think he should have gotten to make that game. So if he's going to make a version of that game he can make that isn't the game he can't make, by all means, go make that game.
Yep. Real quick, just to wrap up the Kojima production stuff, they talked about the Death Stranding movie that's coming from A24.
Which I had forgotten also was happening.
Yes. This is a pan-media operation over there.
Listen, he has met so many famous people at this point. They have all been scanned.
Yep.
He has those scans. He can do whatever he wants with them. He can hold that over people forever. So if he wants to make a movie, what are they going to do? Say no? He's got their scans.
True.
I put you on the machine already. I'll put you in the movie.
I'll put you in the pain machine and you don't let me make that movie.
That's right.
The tidbit that caught my eye out of this is that they've said the Death Stranding movie is going to be original characters, original story setting. It's not going to be I don't know that they could have gotten any of those actors for this.
Even if not the actors, telling that story in a 2-hour format just does not feel right.
No, definitely not. Honestly, it reminds me of the Fallout show. The Fallout TV series is kind of borderline gold standard for me of how to adapt a video game property.
I think at this point, yes.
Really nice to see some other people taking the tack of, hey, let's just take this universe and come up with a story that's appropriate to the medium we're using.
I'm curious what it'll be. I really, a little story in that universe seems like the right thing to do. I'm with you.
Yeah. A story you haven't seen in that world, explore characters you haven't seen before.
Is he directing? Who's directing?
It is, I had the name in front of me, Michael Sarnowski, who made A Quiet Place Day One is the only film I've got in front of me at the moment. Let me see, what else did he do?
That movie was generally pretty well regarded, despite the fact that the A Quiet Place thing had kind of run its course by the time it came out, I think. That was the one with Lupita Nyong'o and the cat, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it directed Pig.
I was going to say, this says he directed Pig.
That's right, it is Pig. Fuck, that is the Pig guy. I forgot his name. Shit, Pig is awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's one of the saddest fucking things I've ever seen in my life, but it's fucking awesome.
Okay. Well, there you go then.
So actually, no, I feel like he is uniquely suited to this world. And please, for the love of God, find a way to get Nick Cage involved in all of this.
Oh, please. That'd be great.
If you need a replacement for Ritas in a 2-hour version of Death Stranding, I can think of worse actors to go to.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep. There's your Kojima Productions update. Ryu Gagotoku is another studio that has had a pre-TGS event or stream or something.
It was a stream.
In which they announced Yakuza Kiwami 3 because they cannot stop putting games out.
They're doing it again.
Funny they're calling it Yakuza 3 Kiwami after they've decided to name all the new ones like a dragon.
Yeah, is that just a reference to or, attempt at consistency with the original release?
Be.
Probably?
I think it is.
And the other Yakuza Kiwami games are called Yakuza Kiwami.
Right.
Yes, they are.
Right?
So, like, changing it now, I feel like would actually, I mean, look, it's all confusing and none of this is ever going to fit together 100% right, but I think that they have to do it this way.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Any feeling? I am so not Yakuza guy. I have next to no take on this, but how are you guys feeling?
So I'm going to default to Austin on this one because I did play Kiwami 1 and 2, and I really like the things they added for those games. But 3 and 4 are the two Yakuzas I have like the least time in, so I don't really know that much about how well regarded those games are.
People really love 3. 3 has, I think 4 is probably the one that made me go, I should be taking these games seriously. I should be playing these games. But 3 is the orphanage game.
Yes, that's the first big orphanage story.
That's right. Kiryu has started, living the life of a guy running an orphanage. It's the stuff in Okinawa. It has like kind of the first big like I can't get out of this life stuff. It's also the first time that you get to play as, I believe it's the first time you get to play as Haruka, the kind of, now she's old enough to be her own main character. They're all well regarded. I think people really like this one. It didn't really make an impact on me the way 4 did, but I'm excited to revisit it because maybe this time it'll get its hooks into me. If I'm remembering right, it has one of the most loved antagonists. One of like the most like, this is a guy who's like cool enough that guy who could actually stand up to Kiryu as a badass, who also comes back in later games. So
they always do. Unless they're dead, they always do. So and with the Kiwami stuff, like part and parcel with that is they add a whole bunch of shit to it that makes it feel more like a modern one of those games. And that presentation offered up a fair amount of like, look, here's all the shit you're going to get to do in the orphanage. Here's all the relationship building you're going to be doing with these kids. Yeah. And then on top of that, they are adding a side story second game thing.
Oh, I missed this.
It is an additional, I guess the package you buy will have both these things in it. But the I forget the name, the subtitle of it, but it is a game starring a character called Mine, who is a businessman who has decided to join the underworld, and I guess he is sort of like a main character in Kiryu's story in that game. But here there is like an origin story for kind of how he gets into the underworld that is a separate storyline, and I think technically a separate executable within all of that. So
like a standalone. It's not just like extra side missions or flashbacks. It's actually a standalone game. That's fun.
I imagine it's probably one of those like the man who erased his name length things. I can't imagine they wrote like an entire 60-hour story for this. Also, I have no idea how people feel about Mine because I don't remember that character very well, and he doesn't really come up in a lot of the later stuff.
He's a Yakuza 3 guy. He's like the Yakuza 3 guy. Yeah.
When the guy on the stream says he's a beloved character, I just kind of have to take their word for that.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So it seems like pretty jam-packed with stuff. And again, I think the Kiwami 1 and 2 remake treatment is great. Before they did those HD updates for 3, 4, and 5, where they put them out as like, like piecemeal, and like they had HD visual upgrades, but they were not remakes. So I have those. And I guess I'm buying 3 again because they are doing much more elaborate work on it. I thought they were done with the Kiwami stuff. Apparently not.
I was just about to ask if this was expected because the first two games were PS2, right?
Originally,
so,
yes.
But 3 was the first PS3 one, right? So like you can make more of an argument that remakes for PS2 games are necessary than remakes of PS3 games. But like,
I mean, also those HD updates, 3 definitely look the roughest from what I remember.
Fair, and also what is the most necessary is making money. If these things do well, then that's enough of an impetus. But I mean, do you think they keep going?
I think at least up to 5, yes, they do. I think they will probably eventually do Kiwami versions of 3 through 5. 6 is a PS4 game. I think when you get to, 5, I guess technically was a PS4 game also, but it was like, I want to say it was like kind of straddling the 3-4 timeline.
Yeah.
I feel like 6 is where it really kind of takes on the look that it has now.
Yeah.
So you'd have to do something pretty considerable to that one to justify it. But they may come up with a reason for that.
I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to do it. I do. I think
the
they're
whole
going to do
Kiryu
it.
saga does kind of make sense.
That's exactly what it is. They're going to put
which
the
means
whole
they have to do
Kiryu saga.
Zero also.
They'll have to do Zero Kiwami, which is a very funny thing to think about, but they'll do it.
It's already such a dense game, man.
Yeah, dude. Zero's so good.
12 years from now, you'll just be able to buy the entire Kiwami saga as a bundle on Steam.
That is exactly what I was thinking, Brad. Yeah.
And then they'll start Kiwami-izing all the Ichiban stories.
The Ichiban ones.
By that point, we'll be on the PS6. And they'll be like, well, those PS4 games are pretty old looking. So here you go. Here's these again.
Meanwhile, they will have put out 19 original games in the same time frame.
Right.
Yes.
Judgment 7 will be... Actually, no, because the thing that they're showing now is Stranger Than Heaven.
Yeah,
right?
I think that looks super interesting.
I'm so curious about that, dude. I'm so excited for that.
That might be the thing. I've dabbled with that studio stuff. I actually really liked Yakuza 7 a lot, but Stranger Than Heaven might be the thing that really gets me in. I think that looks fascinating.
Yeah, I'm excited to see some more.
Yep.
I think it's pretty far off, though. But
next year, I want to say...
That 2026? Okay. I would love it if it was 2026.
Well,
My guess is
I think that is. I think that is out next year.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've put out a date. I don't see one right now, actually. All right, let's wrap up the news here real quick. Austin, I'm going to ask you to put your game developer hat on just a bit here.
Put it on. Here it is. This
headline about the GDC, the Game Developer Conference rebrand.
I don't know what's going on.
And
Yeah. So, do you want to describe what the rebrand looks like?
Yeah. So the Game Developers Conference, long running, I mean, like 25 years or something. It's been around for ages in California. Is rebranding to the GDC Festival of Gaming.
Yeah.
And in addition to the name change, I don't have all the bullet points fully in mind here, but there are changes as well to the pricing of the passes, what the pass entitles you to see and attend the show. I think maybe some changes to exhibitor stuff as well. I'm not 100% sure. It sounds like they're like opening access to the show to people.
I think it is a very weird shift and misunderstanding of what this event is for. Tonally. I think that the sort of people who haven't seen the actual like graphic design on this, it looks like, I mean, the video that I just linked both of you to feels like a mid-2000s Adult Swim bumper.
It's weird.
It's very weird. It's like it's a sans serif font, but it's this kind of like big, bold, sort of, I don't know, 60s, 70s font. The with straight like brackets and asterisks and other typeface things as like the design elements on that thing. And yeah, calling it a festival of gaming, I've heard through the grapevine that there is perhaps a divide between the marketing team, or what the marketing understands this thing to be, and maybe what the people who are actually running it is. Now, whether that will shift what it actually is up in the air, but it feels more akin to the festivals that the sort of fan festivals and stuff that the company puts on otherwise, than the actual conference stuff that it is. I cannot imagine that it will feel like a festival. And I think anyone who's going to this thing, which costs a fortune to attend, is thinking that it's going to be like South by Southwest or something, is going to be disappointed. I have to hope it doesn't become more like that sort of an industry festival and actually retains its kind of industrial character, which is very useful to people. Though I will bracket this by saying, never has it felt more like the world needs a GDC equivalent not in the US than right at this moment. I cannot imagine spending thousands and thousands of dollars to come into this country in this current moment while immigration is such a nightmare, among everything else. So, you see Rami out there every day trying to, agitate and organize towards something else. There's a bunch of other people doing that, and a bunch of people who don't have Rami's platform to do that, So I don't know. I think that it is, even with the new pass structure and stuff, I have friends and people I love who work in the games industry and in games academia this is still not like, oh, it's easier than ever for students to go or something like that.
No.
And if they're going to do a change, that's the sort of change that I think actually it would need to do. So we'll see.
I cannot stress enough how much this industry, alongside every other one, probably needs to make everything they do less US centric right now. Not from a market perspective, if you are doing things that require, bringing in foreign talent, if you're talking about bringing for shows, conferences, anything like that, now there's never been a better time to find another city in the world to do that stuff, because for the next couple of years at least, it kind of seems like that's going to be a very dicey proposition.
Yeah, I mean, does this rebrand seem like an attempt to get out in front of all these calls for an alternative?
I don't know. I feel like, I guess, but I feel like it's hard to know what goes on in the boardrooms of major conference runners, because it often seems so disconnected from everything,
Yep.
The Guardian ran a story today or yesterday about this from Kevin McDonald that's like very explicitly like a new title treatment isn't going to save GDC. There's more going on here. So
and it feels like it can't just be about like the criticism of the accessibility of the show, because that's been going for years and years of people saying, hey, this thing is insanely expensive, and the people that need it most are the least in a position to afford that. Like that criticism is not new. So
that has been ongoing.
And the stuff that they're saying, there was a presentation that got released, or maybe I don't think it got leaked, but you can go find the deck for this. I don't know if y'all have seen this, but the stuff that they say in that is like it's going to be easier to afford, which we'll see. I don't think there's a particular price. There's no price point in that, so that would be great. But the other stuff that they talk about is like the events aren't just going to be in the Moscone Center. They're going to be all over the city.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
Great. I have to travel more to go see stuff.
Notoriously great city to get around if you need public transportation. San Francisco, California.
I think part of what some of the vibe I've gotten both from GDC directly and from groups that work with GDC or lead events alongside GDC. There's a New York State thing that happens there. Believe it or not, there used to be a booth, but now there's going to be like a off-site thing. There's a lot of people who feel like what they want is for the business of GDC to happen at GDC and not in a hotel room somewhere. And it feels like there's been a push towards that. So that's the vibe I'm getting. I'm not in these rooms. I want to be clear, but I have eyes and ears many places. And so that is the type of stuff that I'm hearing. And it feels like maybe that's part of this to some degree. If people want to be in the hotel rooms instead of on site at the Moscone Center, why don't we just have places that aren't in the Moscone Center? Like, it's such a exec-brained version of this,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you intended that way, Austin. That is the most streets is watching thing you have said in a while. I got eyes and ears everywhere, man. I know.
I do.
I'm not in the rooms, but
I'm not in the rooms, but I don't need to be in the rooms.
People tell me things. I got my sparrows out there,
That's right. Ha ha. It's I keep my ear to the ground. So we'll see. I think it looks bad.
Yeah, it's not a great presentation.
I don't think it's a good looking typeface. I think it looks like they're trying to casualize the event in some way, but that's not what it is. So,
no. I honestly think this sort of like cheerful redress. I understand like there's a desire to maybe not align this re-announcement with the current tone of the world, but my only response to looking at something was like, get that shit out of my fucking face. I don't want to look at this right now. Like, this is not doing anything for me.
Yep. So what I will say is I'll eat all of my words if what they make is an affordable pass that lets people go see talks and not just go to the expo floor, but go see talks that are good for them and useful, at a reasonable price, especially for students. I think one of the big things with the current moment in games in the States, at least, is we might wrap back around to this if we get to emails, but there are lots of game design students now. And it is very expensive, even for people already in the US, to go across the country and go to an event like GDC and afford a hotel or an Airbnb or whatever, and then still get in, and then also afford a pass at the level that gives them access to talks.
Right.
And sometimes the school is able to provide that for their students, but those aren't free. The schools pay for it, and sometimes the schools can't afford to give students an all-access pass. They can afford them to give them an expo hall pass or an exhibitor pass because they might have a thing in the expo hall. But like the thing that students need and that young professionals in the industry need is the ability to go to a talk about, I don't know, rendering techniques if you're an artist or
whatever their wheelhouse is.
Like
whatever their
mentorship,
wheelhouse
right?
is. That's right.
Like
exactly.
in a more direct fashion.
And there's some of that stuff that happens outside of GDC. That happens at parties. It happens at private events and stuff, 100%. But it happens at the talks, and I hope that those become more affordable. So, I'm happy if that's where this ends up going, to have the bad logo. But I hope that that's the key of where it goes.
Yeah. The lack of the explicit word developer in the new title is maybe a little concerning, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's very strange to me. Yeah. What I really don't want it to be is yet another fake E3.
Yes. That was definitely my first thought, was the big E3 public rework was the first thing that came to mind when I saw this stuff, but we shall see.
We'll see.
All right, that's it for news. Austin, before we let you get out of here, there is an email that you alluded to that was kind of a perfect segue into. So let's do just a couple quick emails here. Podcast@nextlander.com is the address if you want to send an email in. An email such as this from Fred in Ohio. This is crazy. When I looked up what he was talking about here, like, I had no idea this was a thing, but it's so cool. Fred in Ohio says, I was thinking about the recommended reading list of The Sims and other old Maxis Studios games, as I often do, and thought how interesting it would be to be able to teach a college course on the game using those readings. My question is, if you had to teach a course about video games, what would it consist of? This could be anything from a narrative about a specific game to a lesson about a specific period in video game history. I even once heard of a class at Berkeley that taught you how to play fighting games. Thanks for the podcast, et cetera, et cetera. So I went and looked this up. At first I thought this was like a joke, or like somebody had put this together in recent years or something. Apparently this was in the manual for The Sims.
Yeah.
Like Maxis straight up used to include reading lists in the credits or the manuals of their games. This full on has like a bunch of ISBN numbers for all these books, such as Home, A Short History of an Idea, Notes on the Synthesis of Form.
Yeah, real
ass shit.
Like a real academic shit. Like anyway.
I want every game to come with a reading list like this, because someone somewhere with most games, even if it's not academic texts or pop sci or kind of like popular nonfiction, which some of this stuff is, some of it is like straight up academic architectural stuff. But like that blend of stuff, even if it's not that, even if it is like, I read this Warhammer novel, I want the list. I want to know what you were reading and watching to give you the influence to make the whatever the thing is, because I think that would go a long way. And I also think that there's something fun, which is like, yes, you could teach a course off of this, but it is also the type of thing you could build a course around. Like, Brad, we were talking about Final Fantasy Tactics already. Think about Final Fantasy Tactics as an object you could teach a course around. You could teach about the history of wargaming inside of that course. You could teach about the history of class warfare in that course. You could talk about the history of kind of medieval conflict in that course. Like
there are parallels to interwar Europe in there. There's like all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that and you could even teach about post-war Japan in that course, which influences Matsuno as, living in the era of the big boom and the big bust in Japan in the 80s and 90s, in the kind of like the hangover of the post-war period and what all that ends up building into. Like, a game can be a really multifaceted text that you can use to teach around and to teach through. And we do that with other forms already. There are plenty of classes out there about the Odyssey, using the Odyssey to talk about ancient Greek, literature and also ancient Greek history and the classics in general. You can do this with modern classics, about time periods, like the literature of the post World War I, the Lost Generation stuff. You could read Gatsby and Sun Also Rises and all that, and then think about the era that way. So there's so many ways to do this. I don't know what the one way to do it is. Or the one I would choose is. I don't know what comes to mind for me, but there's a lot of good stuff you could do here. I think you could do a really good sports class. I think you do you could do NES sports games like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and Tecmo Bowl, and think about like do a class about how sports and culture intersect and like who the athlete is. And I would do that class. Like, yeah, this has the old teacher Austin brain going, because that stuff would be great.
The angle I thought of when you said the sports stuff was like thinking about the ways in which we reduced those sports down to something distilled, like the ways that we shave off the, you know, extraneous parts of these long held traditions to fit them on this cartridge, and then kind of building that out into, so is this the essence of the sport that they were trying to capture, and did they actually capture it? That kind of thing.
You know, there is a lot of great text out there about different types of sports. Shout outs as always to CLR James, who has a book on cricket called Beyond a Boundary. I think everyone who's listening to this should go listen to the Game Study Buddies episode on the book Beyond a Boundary, which is a memoir about cricket from a Trinidadian intellectual who like digs into the history of cricket and race and colonialism. That's fascinating. And like that plus playing Madden and thinking about, for instance, the way that the EA's deal with the NFL in the early 2000s that's lasted since then, basically, where they become the exclusive seller of NFL, traditional NFL sim games, changed the way that, for instance, injuries are depicted in sports games, or drug use and stuff like that. There was a moment there where like the reality of the NFL was like leaking into those games. And then let me tell you, when you're the only game on the block and the NFL says no steroids, no CTE,
a lot easier to lean on that.
A lot easier to lean on that, you know?
I think the one I would probably do is I would probably look into the branching point where sports games stopped being exclusively about the sport being played and started to become the business manager that the modern sports game becomes. Like the second you start dealing with trades and contracts and all of that, the business aspect almost becomes the dominant factor in what you are playing.
Yeah, I think a lot of my answers to this question, like I am not business school material, but a lot of my answers would be most appropriate in business school, like case studies on things like Sega fighting Nintendo to a draw in the Genesis Super Nintendo generation after Nintendo had like 90-something% of the market for the NES. And then here comes Sega, here comes the upstart and literally ties them, takes 50% of the market, like stuff like that. I think a lot of historical competitive cases would make for interesting study.
I want to say really quick, for anyone who is in school or anyone who has kids in school right now, a lot of these things we're talking about, there's stuff like it at school at this point. Do yourself a favor if you're someone who like sticks close to their major and this doesn't sound like a thing your major teaches, look at the rest of the course catalog. Go find yourself a class that's about horror movies or horror games. Go find yourself a class that is about sports movies or sports games. Like that stuff is out there in the humanities. It's one of the things that makes the humanities really cool. And like you said, even a business class about something like a particular moment in a media field that you're interested in. It is worth broadening those horizons and trying some of that stuff.
Especially
it's very cool.
In a time when man's inhumanity toward the humanities has never been stronger.
So true. Yes. Go support your local sociologist or English major or philosophy major, please, or philosophy teacher, you know?
Yep. Well said. All right. I think let's call it there. That was an excellent answer to that email. I think that's that asked and answered on the emails this week. Podcast@nextlander.com. is the address. Send the emails in. Austin, thank you very much for being here. This has been
a joy to be here. So fun.
The pleasure is all ours. I know you got some plugs in at the top of the episode, but anything else you want
to? I'd say for this audience, I would love if people gave Side Story a shot. It's the podcast I do with the rest of the Friends of the Table crew. We alternate who comes on, but I host it. I think it's a good way to get to know people from Friends of the Table. I also think it's a good way to hear me talk about video games here in 2025. And the one podcast I didn't plug at the top, but is still very important to me, is Shelved by Genre, which is a genre literature podcast. We are currently working through a number of the non-superhero comics of Alan Moore. We've done a bunch of other stuff in that show. Most recently, we did a unit on post-apocalyptic fiction, including Canicle for Leibowitz, which if you're a Fallout person, go listen to us talk about Canicle for Leibowitz, which is, let me tell me if this sounds familiar. There's a monastic order in the desert that is the lone guardian of pre-Fallout technology that guards it with their life and kind of blends a mix of technological innovation and religious fervor. That's from Ken for Leibowitz. Now, are the books also a little anti-Semitic? They sure are.
Oh, okay. Not know about that element.
They sure.
Okay.
It's a certain type of. It's a very particular type of anti-Semitism that we get into in the descriptions of the books. Fascinating reading.
Okay,
we did that. We did a Philip K. Dick book that I really love also. So people should go listen.
Yeah, I've been aware of that book for 25 years and have always thought I should read it. And I saw you were doing this podcast, and that might be the thing that actually pushes me into it.
Go read it. It's a fascinating series. I think there's a lot there to love, and I think that the anti-Semitism in it is of a very common post World War II version, which is like invested in the Jews are just so doomed historically, aren't they? Mm-hmm. And it's like ouch, it is not the Hitler style, the Jews are the cause of all of our problems. It is the other version of the Jews are sort of like guarantors of our holiness because they're suffering.
Sure.
And it's very weird.
Yep.
But and in the middle of all that is like some really fascinating and funny post-apocalyptic writing about there's like something very Coen Brothers-esque in that story, believe it or not.
I want to say
stories.
one of them at least has cited that book at times as like an influence on their overall approach to art, though I could just be imagining that.
There is a bit where a technologically impaired monk is just like fighting with the AI like long distance transmission machine because it won't translate his writing from Arizona into the proper Kentucky dialect. And that is a Coen Brothers scene to me.
Yes, 100%.
So,
sure.
It's great. It's really, that stuff is really good. So
this might be a leap. I could be wrong. Are the folks you do that show with, are they also the Just King things?
They are the Just King things people and the Game Study Buddies people.
Okay.
Michael Lutz and Cameron Kunzelman. Michael is also the co-writer on an upcoming game from Half Mermaid, along with Brandon Cronenberg, which is wild. So I'm a 2-degree remove from the Cronenbergs. Yeah. I'm happy about
getting
that.
closer.
I've met David, so I mean,
you've met David,
I met David, so you had another connection.
I have many pathways.
Right.
I love it.
We're old buddies, obviously.
I've
been weighted back down a Stephen King rabbit hole the last few months and listened to the first episode of their King podcast recently. So
that show is very good. People should listen to that.
Yes.
I really think that like listening through all of that and then getting to the end of the Dark Tower, especially, is it's one of those. It felt like finishing a season of television, getting to hear them get to the end of the Dark Tower. So, big. Obviously, I make a show with Cameron and Michael and love them very much. So, people should listen to Just King Things. People should listen to Game Study Buddies. They're good guys.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's been fun.
Thrilled always to get to talk to y'all.
Before we get out of here, Alex, we've got some business to attend to.
Indeed.
As many people listening know, Nextlander is entirely Patreon supported. Mm-hmm. We would not be here without the support of our Patreons, and I mean that in a very literal sense. We want to thank all of our patrons for their generous support. We extra super duper want to thank the mysterious benefactor tier patrons who get their names read on this show.
Yes.
Alex, you have the floor.
Indeed, I have gathered the patrons, our mysterious benefactors this time, and because I'm the one who did it, they're going to be in a slightly different order than usual, so get used to that. Here we go. Our mysterious benefactors for this week are Jerry Lee, Sean Miller, Sending Good Vibes on the Internet, RRE, Alpha Rhythm, Infelicitous Rips, David L., Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, Jason Grimm, John Hubbard, NXL Retirement Fund, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre is a Vampire, again, Robert Fisher, Bunny Money, Jad Rita, Statics, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Randy Alderson, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Hey, you got Tyler Treese at the end, so as far as I'm concerned,
it might as well be the same.
As far as I'm concerned, you are standards compliant here. Thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. It means the world to us. It literally keeps us doing this. We could not be here without you. With that, I think that's going to do it for the Nextlander podcast for the week. Vinny will be back next week. We'll be back on more of a regular format. What have we done this week? We streamed Baby Steps and Skate on Monday, which is up on YouTube now if you want to go watch that.
I feel like it's very telling that I've now played hours of Skate and I did not think of anything I wanted to say about Skate today.
Did you play more of it after that stream?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I have like less than zero feelings about it.
Having watched you play it, I get it, honestly.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Let's see. The first episode of the Columbo Watchcast series is up, I believe. Is that correct? For patrons?
Yes. Our Bridge series, where we are doing a couple of Columbos starring Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner as we move from Star Trek into other things. The Nimoy one is up. The Shatner one, Fade into Murder, will be up next week, and then we'll be on to our Halloween theme.
Got to figure out how to transition into the Halloweens. Did Peter Falk do any horror?
I have an idea about that. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it when we talk tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Another stream coming on Friday. We'll figure out what we're going to do for that. I'm sure it'll be fantastic.
It'll be fun.
Yep.
I know that much.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Austin, again for being here. Thank you, Alex. We're going to get out of here. This has been the Nextlander podcast. We'll see you next week.